We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And when we're done, I would ask that everyone would continue standing for a moment of silence for former Councilman Jim Pelky, who passed away recently. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take a minute. Thank you. I just wanted to recognize Jim Pelky once again. He was a longtime council person who served on the council for 20 years. He recently passed away. His funeral was last week. He was an advocate for his ward and for the city of St. Albans. And I only served with him for a couple years, but former Mayor Liz Gamache is here, and she had the pleasure of serving with Jim for a period of time, a longer period of time. Liz, did you want to say a few words?
Sure. Want me to do that from here? I haven't been to a meeting in a little while.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Smith and City Council. It's an honor to be able to say a few words to remember Councilman Jim Pelky. It was truly an honor to serve with Jim Pelky because he embodied public service. He cared about this community so deeply, and he was just an outstanding city councilor. One of the things that I've reflected on in speaking with folks over the last week or so is his first and foremost priority was his family. His dear wife, Mary, who he adored, and the rest of the family. I think a close second behind his family was us. It was his community that he cared so deeply about. He was a man of compassion and conviction, and he also listened. He wanted to understand the facts and the feelings around the issues, the problems that we faced. And he might hold his ground, but he might be persuaded to see things differently. And that's because he cared, he was compassionate, and he listened. I think that's something to remember when I think about his legacy. As we walk through St. Albans, anywhere you go, you are close to something that Jim Pelky positively impacted. And we're probably close to so many things that he impacted in a positive way that we will never even know. But perhaps as we move forward with tonight's meeting and future meetings, I think he would be really happy to know that so many people care and are coming out. It's a difficult and challenging situation that we're all faced with. I think one of the ways that we can honor Jim, his legacy and his love of democracy, is to acknowledge that the problems can be challenging, but this is a strong community that cares. And if we listen, we can come together respectfully to help make positive change. So again, thank you for letting me share a few words about Councilman Pelky. I will certainly miss him, and I know we all will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Liz.
We will now open it up for public comment. Public comment is for those comments for items that are not already on the agenda. So if you are here looking to comment on public safety, now is not the time. We will get into that when we get into the agenda item with the Public Safety Committee and an update from the Police Department, Chief Lamar. So if there's anyone that has a public comment on anything other than that, please step forward.
I have a hand on the Zoom.
We have a hand on the Zoom.
Chip Sawyer.
Chip, the floor is yours.
I just thought I'd make the point now that we had warned a hearing
I can't hear
for
you.
tonight.
Hold on.
Oh, they can't hear me yet. Can you hear me now?
There is not headphones. Let's try this. Chip, could you try again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Just making a note on the agenda that we had warned a hearing for a Vermont Community Development Program grant for the Spectrum Youth Center tonight. But that grant application has been postponed and the hearing will not be held tonight.
So Chip, you're saying the date was set because the hearing did not make the agenda.
We had to warn it because it had to be warned ahead of the meeting. But in the meantime, they actually decided to push things out. So they actually won't be holding the hearing tonight.
Okay. Thanks, Chip. Any other public comments? Then we'll move to item number 4.
Motion to convene as liquor control.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So we'll leave our council meeting and call the liquor control board together. So we're reviewing an application.
Hello.
Hello, Nicole.
I'm here with Casey. Casey, if you want to come on up. Casey just purchased 42 Pigman, the old J.W. Ryan's, and she's looking for approval for her first and third class liquor license. You guys received all of her items. The only thing we were lacking was her insurance binder, which you've been working on, and I had sent you guys all the email threads, but she is working on the insurance portion. And then the state inspection, which they have to finish the renovations before the fire marshal can come in and give them the final okay for the business to open.
Thank you,
Sit down,
Nicole.
Casey.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so you had operated a business in the past?
I operate many businesses right now. Currently, I have a retail store and a couple other businesses. I've also been in this industry before.
Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yep, so my dad used to own the Rave back in 1990s, late 90s. And I managed that for him for a long time. And I've had some other opportunities to help him kind of open other bars like Einstein's in Burlington, which he recently sold.
I don't remember the rave. I was still in high school. Now, you had encountered some issues when you had the rave.
Actually, we had 0 insurance claims, and we didn't really have a ton of issues except for at the end, I think there was a little miscommunication between him and the city, and that's his issue that I didn't have any party of.
And have you seen the new city ordinance since then?
No.
That's available, right? When was that on, Jim?
Over a year, 3 or 4 years ago, Nicole? Yeah, you should take a look at that, Casey. There's a lot of changes.
Okay. Perfect.
So, hi Casey, I'm Chad. So I've been on your side of the table before,
Yes.
yelling at Tim over here,
Tim Hawkins.
Tim Hawkins. I do want to let you know because, and this was brought up because your name was part of a lawsuit against the city.
Okay.
Back then, your name was on it. And I really want to see you do great at J.W. Ryan's. I think Kingman Street needs it. I love that place. I have a deep connection to it, so, and I think you have the experience to do it. But do have a couple questions.
Sure.
The city ordinances go farther than what the state law says.
Okay.
And by choosing to do business in this city, you're choosing to do business under a set of ordinances, not even necessarily all that I agree with, but they're there. And so what we had to do when I was doing business of this kind in the city is when those ordinances came up, you had 2 choices. You can choose to ignore and get fined and litigate, or you can choose to do business in the city under those ordinances. And I think it's important that you know that they are strictly enforced.
So I'll give you an example. Me and my dad are 2 very different people, by the way.
I'm not trying to compare you either.
I'm just gonna give you an example. I just received a letter from the AG that told me that a certain product was illegal, right? and other people would continue to sell this product. I'm a very black and white person.
Okay.
The law is the law, the rules are the rules. I do not sell those products. I pulled them right off my shelf as soon as I knew that they were illegal. It's disposable vaporizers that are everywhere, by the way.
Yeah.
So I follow the law strictly. I am not in any trouble, never been in trouble. And I'm very particular on following the rules. I actually think it's a little crazy that the state lets you do 4 ounces in a drink. I probably will not be making drinks with 4 ounces of liquor in them. I just don't think that's a smart idea for the city or for a business. I mean, I have a liquor liability. I need to make sure people are driving safe, that they're being safe. I plan on rolling out a huge menu of mocktails so that people can come out and have fun without anyone knowing or caring if they're drinking. So I think that you can have plenty of fun without drinking and going overboard.
Perfect.
And that's the plan.
Do you see, I think one of the difficulties is with, some of the traffic on Kingman Street. Do you see that being a problem or a detriment to your?
To tell you the truth, I think if there's more people out and about on Kingman Street later at night and during those times, there will be less people that shouldn't be there hanging out.
I think you're 100%.
When we go outside, they disappear. And we walk our dogs around, they're not coming up to us. They're shying away when we're out. And we're out a lot in that area lately. So it seems like Fridays and Saturdays, they're definitely out a lot more.
Yeah.
But I think if more people are out that are good people that have good thoughts and hearts,
Yep.
that it'll get rid of a lot of the riffraff.
Casey, what's your vision for it, for the?
Honestly, my vision is to create a nice social space so people can get together and have fun, whether they want to drink and eat and play pool and some darts, maybe a little bit of dancing on the weekend. A place people can go out to after they go to a movie for date night. A place where girls can go have the girls' nights. A place where people can get together and maybe watch a football game. We're doing all shareables, so we're doing a big menu of like little things that people can all share and gather together and eat and enjoy as a community. We started the GOAT thing. We don't just want to be the greatest of all times for sports, but the greatest of all times for like local legends and people in our community that do good things. So I think it's a good way for us to like kind of bring the community back together and a good space for them to get together and enjoy themselves.
Questions?
What are you doing with a J.W. Ryan sign? That's what everyone wants to know. Will it have a place in the new?
We are keeping as much as we possibly can. Of course, we do want to make it our own,
Of course.
but the bar is not going anywhere. We're keeping a lot of the stuff that Dickie had there, and it should be exciting. I'm very, very excited.
No, any questions? Marie?
No, it would just be nice to see that operating, that place operating.
It will be really fun.
Chad, you good?
I'm good.
I think most of my questions have already been answered.
Casey, are you living at the property?
Yes, I live right upstairs. Love that.
And what do you think that's gonna do for the management of the property?
I think that I'm gonna be there all the time, so there's definitely an owner on premise.
Does Joseph have any experience in the bar business?
No, he does not, but he's a quick learner.
Okay. I see that you and Joseph both got your licensing from the DLC.
Yep,
Okay, here. And there's been no criminal violations either for you or for Joseph?
nope.
And are you aware that the insurance policy that you get names the city as the lost payee?
I was not aware, but that shouldn't be a problem.
And you're aware of the limits of that policy? What your limits are supposed to
I
be?
think we're doing 1 million, that seems like a common limit, but I haven't read the ordinances.
All right, take a look at that, because I think it's a little different than that, but just take a look at it. Also, you understand that if you bring on any officers or any new people in the organization, that the city has to be notified?
Oh, officers of the company?
Yeah.
Yeah, there won't be any new ones.
We don't care about bartenders and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but we do care about if someone else is gonna own the property.
Yeah.
Or own the business. And lastly, what's the hours of operation?
I think we're gonna do 3 to close, and I think during the week, it's probably gonna be 10 o'clock. On Fridays and Saturdays, we'd like to stay open till 2, but again, I haven't read those ordinances to see if there's any changes in that. I think that that's pretty much, well, we'll probably be open until 2:30 to let people, meander out, but like I said, I think more people later on that street on Fridays and Saturdays might not be a horrible thing.
Nothing out of the ordinary?
No.
But you're not gonna open up till 3 in the afternoon?
I think we're leery about over opening.
Okay.
We wanna do it slow and steady. We're gonna be closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for right now.
Do you know if you wanted to say that you were gonna be open at noon, and then just opened at 3, that there wouldn't be a problem with that, but you wouldn't have to come before the council to ask?
Yeah, let's do that then.
So-
Let's do that, Tim.
So you should probably just talk to Nikki and then change your application so that you can change your hours and that it can be approved based on those hours. But that doesn't mean you have to open at that time.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was worried about.
Because if there's ever a day when you wanna open early, because there's something going on in the park or there's a big
St.
function in the
Patty's Day
city,
or something, you wanna have
Yeah.
that
King
anyway.
of
you
those.
might want to be able to open up early.
Perfect. Thank you.
Nothing further.
No other questions? Okay, then we have an application before us.
Any public comment?
Public comment?
I did have a public comment. Hi Daisy.
Hey, Kelly.
My name is Kelly and I am just curious if you would be interested in maybe introducing a teen night in your bar.
It definitely is something that we wouldn't be opposed to.
We as a city or town need a place for our teens to hang out safely without alcohol, obviously. I think that would be an project.
Yeah.
I don't know if we all remember Shaboom, but I do.
Kelly, I don't.
Yeah, I think that could definitely be in the cards. Maybe even on a Wednesday or a Tuesday when we're closed, so that we can shut down everything in the
Any
app.
day, or even when they are out of school,
Mhm.
give them a special day.
Why don't we let you two discuss that further
Also,
offline?
I would like to know what lawsuit were you part of and, what was the outcome of that?
You can Google it. Yeah, that's probably the best way. It's a long story.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other comments? Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the liquor application of Wobbly Goat LLC, which will be doing business as the Goat, pending the completed application by the city clerk and the proper insurance coverage.
I'll second that.
so we have a motion and a second. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes, so Kelsey, you'll
We'll be in
work with.
touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Casey,
Have a
for-
good day.
Thank you for coming in. Nothing else, Nicole, for the liquor control board?
That's it. I'll get you guys documents as soon as she gets them over and.
Yep. Let me just ask you, did we get a list on the last re-up for the licenses on what was going on for violations?
Nobody's had any.
Okay,
Quite some time.
okay. So unless we hear from you when the renewal period comes up, there's been no violations?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And the state will send out an email to me and then I can forward it along to you guys as needed.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Motion to adjourn from liquor control.
Second.
Motion and a second to come out of liquor control. All those in favor say aye.
Alright.
Anyone opposed? We're back into our regular council meeting and moving on to item number 5, which is an update on police department activities with Chief Lamont. There's Chief Lamont right there. Chief, thanks for joining us. Paul, you can take that one.
No, go ahead.
Paul, you're good.
Yeah, it's good. The city manager seat, you got
I
it.
did. So Chief, you, the floor is yours. We will hear your report and then open up to any questions.
Okay. Not sure what you're looking for, so I assume we want to start with some stats and what's going on with the workload and where we're at. The stats are what I think everybody in this room is probably anticipating. What we did, we just, rather than run stats for 3 years back, we just want to see what was going on from last year, 2023, from January to year to date, being August 31st of this year, of last year, compared to January to year to date, August 31st of this year. And it's just no comparison. Just looking at the general stuff that we're all concerned about, just give you some real quick numbers, so I don't want to go through 300 different stats, but Retail theft, we went from 58 last year to 229 this year. Arrests on warrants, 37 to 63. Disturbances, which is usually fights being called in or arguments, 170 to 361. Loitering, 11 to 103. Trespassing, 44 to 190. And then you go up to bigger ones. Suspicious, which covers pretty much anything from somebody being out of place, today's day and age being in somebody's shrubs or garbage, 400 to 800. Welfare checks, 200 to 300. And then the bigger cases, dead bodies, larcenies from a person, everything stayed the same. Nothing's really changed. Overdoses went up a little bit. But it's basically the nuisance calls that are crushing us right now. Charges were up over 500 for 2/3 of the year. And that's where we're at, in a nutshell.
When you talk about overdoses, how many were there?
Actual 15 right now.
Because an overdose, that doesn't necessarily mean death associated.
That doesn't mean death associated.
Do you know how many deaths there were?
I don't know. I don't know death associated.
And I might also add that many of those numbers, would you agree that you also not everyone reports everything?
That's very correct, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the numbers are higher. It all depends how it's coded. A lot of the stuff is coded just the way it's called in. So they could be skewed a bit. But yeah, like overdoses, yeah, we're getting called to, I didn't know it was 10% of those. Most people remedy that themselves. And then, I mean, there's stats for everything. For everybody's wondering where we are with staffing, because that plays into all of this. We are budgeted for 16 patrol officers, not counting any of us, meaning admin, not counting detectives, not counting school resource with DLO. We are one down right now, where we're at, and that person's in the academy.
About the crimes unit, chief.
He started today. The sergeant of that started today. The second position will be as soon as he is ready to pick that second position, when he gets his feet wet here. Won't take long, because he's done, 18 years, 9 of which was in the drug unit anyway. So I don't anticipate it being very long. He actually hit the ground today.
Chief, do you know how many cases the PD has brought to the district attorney that have been rejected? Do you
No.
have those numbers?
We did not ask those numbers. I can tell you that
I'm just curious.
I don't think it's been a large amount. I mean, the frustration we're all feeling, and we're feeling it, I'm not gonna say more than anybody behind me, but we're feeling it, a great deal of frustration. We're dealing with the same people. I also brought those numbers. The high flyers, which I say the top 15 people in this city that we're dealing with. It's not that they're not being held accountable by us, not being held accountable, I don't even think at state's attorney's level. But, bail reform is a big deal. Everybody cite and release, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. It's a little frustrating on, I would say, our level and state's attorney's level, and probably the judge's level. Their hands are tied to some extent as well.
I would like to point out that Assistant State's Attorney Diane Wheeler is here. Diane?
Sure, I'm Joe.
So she can speak better than I can of this, but I know that the SA's office has argued and won to keep some of our high flyers in jail for extended period of times when they probably hadn't met the, and she would know a lot better than I do, the elements to hold them there for the crime, but the continuation of such crimes have held them in for multiple days. Where, which is great, because they're doing it over and over and over again. Talking about retail thefts at car breaks. When I say car breaks, by the way, we still haven't had a car break where somebody broke in. That was reported that way. It's all unlocked cars.
But it's still a crime.
Oh, absolutely. It's still frustrating.
I learned that.
Yep. So,
Diane, can you share your frustration in the whole discussion?
Yes, the frustrations that we're experiencing have to do with not only the handcuffs we have from the legislature on bail. That is, bail is only to make sure someone reappears. They can be taken for different acts of violence. We can ask that people be held without bail. And we have been asking on the domestics, the sex cases, things of that nature, that people be held without bail when appropriate. But keep in mind that DOC, Department of Corrections, also plays a role in this, because they have lobbied the legislature for years not to fill the facilities. They've cut programs such as an intensive substance abuse-based program, a domestic violence program where someone could be on the street, but if they did something wrong, they'd go right back to the facility. They've cut the pre-home detention programs where somebody who might not necessarily need to be in jail but needs to be supervised is under house arrest in their home, where field supervision officers go. But the one thing you do have in Franklin County is an extraordinary probation department who, with the tools they have, will go out into the community and check on offenders. The other frustration we have is with the idea of the judiciary being told not to incarcerate folks by the Department of Corrections, and that has been a past event. In addition, we, like Chief Lamont, feel the frustration of the repetitive petty criminals that are wreaking havoc in the community at this time. Very specifically, as they continue to engage in the behavior to sustain their sometimes addiction, sometimes to get food, many different reasons. The one thing that you also have is a department that will respond. And there are not every county has departments that will respond, like say Albans Police Department, Swanton, Sheriff's and State Police. We do prosecute, if we can file a charge, we will. There are some, because of our numbers, if someone steals a Twisted Tea valued at $269 and it's their first offense, we do have alternate programs such as diversion, and that program has been extremely helpful to restorative justice in this community. It's very strong. They have a COSA program. But we do struggle with not only repetitive petty criminals, but we have some major ones as well, who have significant mental health issues as well as substance issues, so they suffer from a dual diagnosis. Again, St. Albans City Police Department has a embedded mental health professional that has been incredibly helpful to this community. Because we are not going to incarcerate mental health people. That is with the Department of Mental Health.
Okay.
Excuse me, sorry. Thank you. That has been an asset to the city as well. Or maybe Friday. And the Samantha Weber has done a great job. Chief Lamont getting that position has been excellent. I have never had a non-response from the city on anything. Our fatals are up, our overdose types of cases are up. But the other thing we're lacking, that we're working on, the spectrum piece, is a place for the juveniles. We have some juveniles that are very dangerous and need to be held and detained. When they did away with Woodside, apparently nobody thought that the boys and girls might engage in bad behavior. They're building a 14-bed unit. It might serve Franklin County, but it's going to be, we're going to be tossing people out to get other people in. So the resources that this community is looking at, such as the spectrum, the embedded mental health worker, the officers on the street that I've seen more often, I think are the best asset for the community to be safe. What you're seeing is horrific, scary. I often will call city PD and when leaving my office late at night and have dispatch on the line with me or one of the officers with whom I can speak. Because there's an encampment right across the street from our office by the river.
Are you on London Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a good size one over there, it's great.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So every one of us in this room has had these experiences, and we don't have all that many resources, although we're getting more and more. I will say Jim Pelky was a big help in that regard. And this is a community that I've been serving for over 30 years now. I started, and my father married Mary Jane Austin. Her father was Reg Austin, who used to be the fire chief for years and years and years. So that's how far back I go and how I see the different developments. And I think that, again, Chief Lamont's numbers are huge. His officers are responsive, they're sending the cases, and we're doing what we can do, but sometimes we are literally triaging between an aggravated domestic sex assault and a retail theft. And it seems that when we do that and we have to let the retail theft go, that's when it's more frustrating for the community. And you're seeing more of those things. I see them on Facebook, I see them every day. And the best thing that you also have is each other to keep us informed through your forums on Facebook. They've been extremely helpful and enlightening to me. We are available to speak with any of you at any time. When we're not in court, I have trial this week, so this week's not good. But otherwise, I think that the city itself cares, has some resources, and at this time, Chief Lamont's officers are ready to do whatever they can to hold people accountable, just as the state's attorney's office is. But sometimes the judiciary has different ideas. We don't sentence people, the judge does.
Diane, I think it's interesting, you mentioned corrections is one of those arms, if you will, that we haven't talked about, not you and I, but the public hasn't talked about. I didn't realize that they were influencing incarceration and other activities. I think that's very interesting.
They're also influencing agreements, resolutions in different cases. If I have somebody with an intensive substance abuse problem, I want them, close to jail, so because they can give them a number of opportunities. And that program was helpful to the community, it was helpful to the individual, and they've done away with that, saying there weren't enough people in it. So they do control literally the key to the jail cells.
That's an interesting avenue that we will pursue. My other question probably for you and Mo, Chief Lamont, is, as I tell people, 5 years ago, I could go into Martha's Kitchen and I would know everyone at least by face, not by name. And I go in now and I don't know, I know a few, but I don't know many. I guess my question for maybe the two of you is, where are we attracting some of these individuals from? If you know.
So there is a group of folks, whenever someone is released from the correctional facility, they are often dropping them up at the Price Chopper area, that Highgate Plaza area where St. Albans responds. And they often make their way into the city because of the communication among themselves as to where the encampments are, where the resources are for getting money and food. And this is the playground for them.
And do you have a thought as to, I'm guessing some stay longer than others, but some choose to move on?
Some choose to move on, but it's difficult because of transportation. We have a Greyhound and a bus system that does come up Green Mountain transportation. And that is really the only way. They have the transportation to get out of it to meet them.
So one last question, then I'll open it up to the council. The question I had for the city manager is, are we at liberty to ask corrections when they release individuals and where they release them to? I mean, I guess we can ask.
You can ask, but each of those individuals does have privacy rights. For instance, I just can't get their corrections records. I have to ask for it.
As far as when they're releasing this, it's almost daily.
Yeah.
Daily you see the van drop off 2 to 3 to 5 to 10.
My comparison is, how's it different from a sex offender? I mean, we know when a sex offender moves into a community.
Oh, because we have a statute that requires that, the sex offender registration statute. So that's why we're getting notification for those folks.
Questions?
So there doesn't have to be an address, so you can just leave jail and there doesn't have to be an address.
Correct. If they're not under supervision, they're free to go, but like I say, Wheeler was saying, they're dropped, typically it's Hannaford's Price Chopper, like she, or Market 32, whatever it is. Because the thought is there's transportation there, but I've been at Hannaford's and watched them open the van doors and seen gentlemen get out with no shoes, no shirt. Literally out of the van and standing there and nowhere to go, nothing with them.
So we don't give them a suit like you see in the movies?
No. It's however they were brought in, so.
So they're not given resources or release plans, because oftentimes it's after arraignment. They
Right.
get in front of the judge has released them, and they come out of the facility as
Same way they went in.
If they are on a release plan, are they allowed, do they have to have a permanent address, or are they allowed to use like Tim's house,
They
or?
can use Tim's house. Tim's house has been excellent at helping to house folks, and again, has been the COSA program, which I believe Restorative Justice now is running. That's also a release plan, a living situation. But, you know, they themselves have had their own issues. They had one gentleman who had supplied drugs to his girlfriend, and she had died, has been arrested for dealing with them, allegedly. So, the housing they had them in, luckily the person who owned the housing recognized there was an issue and helped. Landlords have been generally very good. We do have a couple of places, 100 Lake Street has been an issue for us. And I don't know even who owns that, but that's a problem.
We talked about our 5 biggest players in the city. We went through today and picked up 15 with the most contacts this year. And of those 15, 5 are not from the city. The other 10 are from the city, long-term, like probably born and raised here. The other 5 are from Burlington, Florida, South Hero, Richford, and Eastford.
Illinois.
So you haven't got the guy from Georgia yet?
Albany.
No, their numbers might not be as high as the others. That's all. We ran it by just contact.
Chief, are we seeing, I know the Border Patrol said there's a lot of folks coming across the Highgate border. Are those folks ending up here? Are they passing through? And how does that work?
So they're being dropped off here in the mornings a lot, but they're not on our radar. We're not ever,
Okay.
I mean, I say ever, very, very rare. Is that an issue?
But do you know that they have a place to stay when they're here?
They're just passing through. They're not trying to stay here. They're trying to get
Okay,
to
they're
larger
trying
areas.
to get someplace else,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's-
Excuse me, I disagree
No.
with that. I believe that people that come across the border already have a pre-plan as to where they're going and what they're doing.
That's fine.
I do not believe that they
Kelly,
come
thank you.
across not knowing what their agenda is.
So I also want you to know that law enforcement is hindered somewhat with respect to those folks who come across like that, is they cannot call down to the law enforcement specialists at ICE and ask about their status. In some of the arrests I see where they're born, that they're not, they might be deported on the end. I can't even, because I has to be a law enforcement that makes that call, I can't find out what will happen or whether or not ICE will come get them. Because there's some agreement that Commissioner of Public Safety signed years ago.
We can't ask, we can never ask status if somebody's in prison.
Okay, thank you.
Jen, anything? No. Eric?
Do you want me to do my update before they ask?
You, Chad, Marie? Okay, so what we'll do now is we have a public safety committee that's been meeting. Trudy chairs that, and she has worked on a list of activities that we've been working on. I would say that they're all baby steps. I mean, that's how we think we're gonna make a difference. So she'll share this. It's not the end all by any means. We will continue to plug along and see if we can make changes. And we can't do it all. Us 6. You need to reach out to your legislators. You need to reach out now, what I'm hearing, to corrections. You as citizens need to help us make a difference. We get calls and people say, well, what are you guys doing? Well, there's 6 of us, we're volunteers. These aren't full-time jobs, we need help. That's what it comes down to. You need to call those running for representative, those running for senator, have a conversation, and tell them that I tell people all the time, we hear it from people, the empathy, the sympathy, and our patience has worn thin for what's happening in this community. Police are doing their best. One of the questions I'm gonna ask Mo here in a little bit, Chief, sorry about that, Mo. Chief, is what can we do with his department, with NCSS, with corrections, to make a difference? So we're gonna have that discussion a little bit, but Trudy, why don't you go ahead with your.
So the Public Safety Committee's been meeting every couple weeks. And I just wanted to give you an overview of some of the things that we've done, because I know it probably appears to some of you that we haven't done anything, but well, in fact, we have been very busy. We toured the park and other problem areas in the community at night to look for areas that we felt needed to be cleared, have the tree canopies raised, and increase lighting. We did that in Taylor Park, some of the parking lots, and Houghton Park. Public Works, you may or may not have noticed, has done a lot of clearing of the bushes around the perimeter of the park, because we felt like the visibility in the park was limited. So the wake fields were great. They cut back some of their plants, did a bunch of clearing down by Houghton Park. I know you had a compliment from one of the women that lives down there that she had noticed. Marty Manahan has been in touch with a lighting company, and we do have, we're gonna be installing 6 new lights and replacing a couple old lights in Taylor Park and Houghton Park, so to increase some lighting. We have invited, and they're here tonight, Vermont Cares and Howard Center to come and talk to us about the harm reduction safe syringe program that has been going on in the city for a long time. I believe, I don't know how long we'll hear that. Just to hear about that initiative that is not an initiative that the city council has started, but one that is a state program, I believe. So they will be here to talk to us tonight. We are working with owners of parking lots to encourage that they monitor and manage the parking lots, so we don't have a lot of unwanted vehicles and campers and things.
Have you?
Oh, can I just finish?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, sorry. I need to keep on going with my flow here. We are also exploring some ordinances as a city that might be able to help some of the challenges we're facing around parks and parking lots. I met with Officer Weatherby, is it officer? Lieutenant, sorry. Lieutenant Weatherby, he and I had a long meeting. He's going to be on October 2nd at 5:30 here at City Hall. I've spoken to him about starting a neighborhood watch program, so any neighborhoods or community members that want to learn about how to do that in a way that is appropriate and safe and respectful, he will be having that, and that'll be for town and city residents, because we support both communities. So October 2nd at 5:30, if you're interested in neighborhood watch, yep, right at City Hall. Stay tuned. Lieutenant Weatherby is going to be sending out more information. I've talked to people who are working with folks in recovery. I've talked to the PD. We've talked to Bob at Martha's Kitchen. We're trying to get a sense of who the folks are that are struggling in our community and therefore making us struggle in our community. The last thing that I'm on a separate committee that Tim Hawkins is chairing, and we're exploring some landlord licensing, and Tim's going to speak a little bit about that.
Before we get into that, just one other thing. Lemnod Drive was mentioned tonight. Lemnod Drive is going to be brush hogged and cleaned. The encampment is being removed as of, if not tomorrow, this week.
What about the ones down the train tracks?
We're dealing with one, yeah, that's on Lemnod Drive.
No, further down.
Down Mason Street.
Well,
Down Mason
we're
Street,
dealing with one at
industrial
a, we're dealing with one at a time. Public Works can only do so much. If it's further down on Mason Street, that may be a town issue.
It is a town issue.
So I would encourage you to talk to the town.
I have.
We're dealing with the city land along the tracks across from CVOEO.
Now, my,
Oh, wait,
That's
We're
up,
gonna hold-
Tim's gonna.
and then
talk
we'll do public comment after we hear
Sure.
about the landlord ordinance.
Okay, so we're putting together a landlord-tenant ordinance. It's very difficult. If you're in law, you will know that those types of things have to be in such a way so there's no discriminatory practices. It's pretty encompassing. It's gonna make the landlords responsible for the things that happen on their property and the people who go in and out of their property. It's gonna require that they have knowledge of the people that go in and out of the property. It's gonna be required that their properties are safe and that their properties aren't a nuisance to other properties or the community at large. All right, the fines are gonna be hefty. We expect to be challenged. We're putting it together now. Hopefully when Dominic gets back from his operation and his recovery process, we'll get something submitted. We'll have our city attorneys take a look at it and make sure that it complies the best that we think it does with the laws of the state of Vermont. And then we're gonna put it into practice. It's gonna be a big problem for a lot of people. It's not meant to be a slap on the hand to the landlords. I do a lot of landlord-tenant law. I only represent landlords. It's gonna put another weapon in their arsenal to evict somebody if we can find that the tenant is putting the landlord in a public nuisance situation or with some type of ordinance violation. Gives them another weapon to use in the court system to say, look, I need to get these people out. It's very tough to get somebody out of an apartment now, all right? And it's only gonna get tougher. But I think this ordinance is something that the city needs. I'm not saying it's gonna solve the problem, but some of these people are going in and out of places around here like a revolving door. Hold on. We'll see what happens, how this can slow it down. Look, I've been here all my life. I'm like a lot of people here sitting down. I've got pictures of things, prostitution, drug deals, wrestling, and this isn't in someone's yard. It's out in front of People's Trust Company. It's up at the shopping center. It's down by BFA, and it's loaded with it. And I don't like it any more than you do, but these people go somewhere. And they go somewhere to get drugs, they go somewhere to get whatever it is they're using. And if it's a landlord, you're gonna be in trouble under this ordinance, right? Hopefully it's not, but at least landlords are gonna watch out what's going on their properties. And if you're an out-of-town landlord, you're gonna have to have somebody here that will represent you as an agent so that the city can ask questions. All right, so an absentee landlord isn't gonna be an excuse. That's gonna be the problem for some of these folks. And there's no money that's gonna be charged, there's no big fee for a license. But if you're a landlord that's got 50 apartments and one of them goes down under the ordinance, all of them go down. All of them. So if you can't operate one apartment, then that means you can't operate 50 apartments. So this is gonna be a big stick to get some of these problems cleaned up, but it's not gonna be all of it. All right, just know this, we're working on it.
Well, that includes the Champlain Valley Housing Trust,
Yes, it will.
like you're saying now, Laura Weldon.
It'll include everybody who has a tenant.
So now we'll move to some questions. We will ask that you all be respectful. These are questions that you direct to the council, and then we will call on the expert, whether it's Ms. Wheeler or the chief or anyone else. I see Melinda's here in the back. So we're gonna start on the left. We'll go here, and then Joe, you'll be second.
My name is Linda Coulomb, I've already signed it. 2 questions. First question kind of going back to the encampment.
I'm sorry, can you stand up when you speak, please?
Oh, sure.
And probably should state your name when you stand up, please.
Yep, my name is Linda Coulomb, I've already signed in. 2 questions, one regarding the encampment. There's rumors that there's one behind SATEC. Is that part of the city or town?
That's town.
there is one back there.
That some of the city school land is in the town. I'm not sure what portion that is.
The one
but-
you're talking about. There is one back there.
And that's the
I
town.
confirmed it the other day, there is one back
You
there.
confirm.
Okay, well, why don't we just keep,
Okay, I was just
well,
curious.
if we can't supply the answer, we'll get to the answer.
I just was curious if that needed to be addressed with the town or city.
If it's on town property, it needs to be addressed with the
Okay, I
town.
just wasn't sure if it was towers.
Yeah.
Thank you. The other question is regarding the landlord law.
The landlord-tenant ordinance?
Yeah, the new landlord tenant ordinance. Would it require a conviction? Because, you know, everybody can suspect that there's drug activity or prostitution, but how?
No, it would require activity, and we would get that from our police department.
Joe, you're next.
Regarding
Stand
the
up, please.
proposed, Joe, sir, ordinance, is there a first reading scheduled yet, or
No, there's not yet.
is there anticipation of when? Not yet?
I would say within the next 60 days.
We're
Yeah,
waiting. It will be in the hands of the city manager when he returns. He's out for another week or so. We'll go in the back.
Are there going to be,
State your name,
with
name
regard,
please,
Lisa
Lisa.
Gosselin, sorry, with regard to the landlord-tenant ordinance, are there going to be levels of, like, how many times
Yes.
something happens?
And-
Okay.
And not only that, but when it gets to an extreme level, if we can see that the landlord is doing something, then everything's abated. So for instance, a landlord gets a $1,000 fine, all right? Landlord comes to the city and says, look, I'm trying to evict these people. $1,000 fine goes away, okay? Something like that.
But the fines are going to be significant, enough to get their attention.
And domestic abuse does not fall, so if the police go for domestic abuse,
That's
not an issue.
I mean, I try to do my due diligence with looking into people, but sometimes they slip in under
Yes.
the radar
Yeah.
and, you know, I don't feel like I should be held accountable for
Right.
something they're doing if I'm not aware of it.
I suggest you show up for those hearings,
I will.
okay?
Kelly?
Good evening, my name is Kelly Bruno, and I recently started the CCCT group on Facebook. If you're familiar with it, thank you for following and joining. I am a concerned citizen, I've lived here 50 years. I have come full circle in this city, from being a problem, breaking the law, going through probation and the court system, to having to prove myself again. So I am familiar with the holes that are in probation and then judicial system. I'm not here to bash anybody or to point anybody out. The police are doing a wonderful job, but they're scared. They're overwhelmed. They need help. If we are scared of these people, what makes you think that the officers are not as well? Tent City that was torn down was exactly that. It was a city. There was not just 7 people there, as what people think. Tent City's been there since the 80s. It's been a problem since the 80s. It should have been addressed back then and not allowed to continue. When they tore that Tent City down, we immediately had a homelessness problem, which the town could not handle. We need a place, we need a homeless shelter that is one step down from jail. Big enough to house 100 men, 100 women, and 50 families. That have rules, regulations. If you wanna stay there and keep your bed, you have to follow the rules. If you don't, you're not there. This is what these people need. They need a safe place to lay. You cannot expect someone who is actively using to stand in front of a judge and comprehend what is going on. These people need to be medically detoxed properly before they face any type of consequences. Or else they'll just repeat the behavior.
No, I appreciate that. So what you're suggesting is not a city, well, that's not a city solution. That is a legislative state of Vermont solution, and that's where I encourage you to reach
Are we
out.
not part of that?
We're a part of it,
Okay.
but the city does not have money to build a 200-bed facility.
Could I please speak on that? If you're finding all these tenants, that money can go towards a homeless shelter.
Nobody said anything about finding any tenants. So what you
Landlords,
want,
excuse me.
Right.
If you're finding these
Yeah.
landlords for stuff that they're not supposed to do, what do you guys plan on doing with that money?
Probably,
hopefully you're gonna have tenants that aren't gonna be there.
Oh.
We need a homeless shelter for people to start, first of all. I have personally been homeless myself. And not only that, I have personally volunteered my time at the homeless shelter. And the immigrants that are crossing the border with no shoes, I have personally bought those people's shoes because I'm compassionate and caring. Those people that are crossing the border are not going very far. They're going to places in Highgate.
so do you have a question of anyone?
I do. Please let me continue.
No,
We're-
Kelly,
we're
we're
not-
not going to let you.
We're
There's a lot of
limited on
people
time.
Okay, we are limited on time.
Yeah.
The border is a problem.
Yeah, the guy in the front.
I personally investigated a meth
Oh,
lab
That's a good idea.
by the border, presented evidence, and I was ignored for 2 years. Okay, I don't know why, but it was not taken seriously.
Kelly, this is, we don't control the border. This is the city of St. Albans. We're dealing with the city of St. Albans issues that we can address.
I'm talking to the human beings and the compassionate people that care about this.
Guy in
But
the
that's
front
fine,
has
let's do it on a different platform.
I will be doing
Tonight,
it with you tomorrow.
That's fine.
Okay.
But tonight, let's move
I
on.
do have a question for Mr. Hawkins though. What are we going to do with wintertime coming and homeless people squatting in empty buildings and trashing them? How do we fix
The
that?
empty building under the ordinance would be considered a nuisance.
Mhm.
And so then it would be under the nuisance, recommendations within the ordinance.
And do squatters actually have rights in Vermont?
Depends,
Depends on what.
a lot of things. That's a
Such
typical lawyer answer, right?
Guy in orange in the front.
How many years, how long have they been there? What what are they doing there? Who invited them in there?
Well, obviously if they're squatters, they don't belong there.
Well, there are people that get invited in as friends and then they end up staying in a
They
place.
don't.
And it ends up
They become a
becoming,
squatter.
and it ends up becoming,
We-
we all know.
What other
Thank
questions?
you,
Okay.
please join and follow my group, because I do have a lot of insight in this town.
Kelly, are
and I
you a
could be
city,
helpful.
are you a city resident? Just curious.
I am a town resident.
Okay, let's move on to, you had a question?
Yes, want me to stand up?
Sure.
My name is Andrew Grant. I'm going back to the, I'm concerned about the per capita of pedophiles around here and how many of them need to be identified. So there's one behind the city school. Definitely one behind the city school. You gotta go a lot farther back to get to it. There's definitely one, the town school. That people want solutions. It's like, it's gonna take us going out there, getting the names, getting the faces. It's like, if the cop needs information, or the police, you guys have been awesome. We've had to call several times, so I give you guys props. You guys are awesome, but it's gonna take more of us. But I'm just wondering, why aren't the encampments near the schools, the kids, primarily? Like, I could give a damn about any of the other ones. The ones near the kids need to be taken care of.
I can talk a little bit if you want me to on that.
Well, I just want to respond. The one on Lemma Drive is 150 feet from Blooming Mines.
Oh, yeah, no, trust me,
I mean-
it's in my backyard.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't wanna go off subject of encampments because you could be here all night on our perspective is this. As a law enforcement, we can't remove encampments off somebody else's property unless they ask us to. The town school, their safety officers walk that every day. They have spent nothing on the town property, school property. If there's anything off that property, we haven't been called to it because it's
Yeah, it's
not
farther
on,
down.
right, it's not on property that
Yeah.
anybody's asked us to be a part
that's
of.
what I was wondering where the board
The
was.
city school, there is one back there. We actually went there today, but nobody was in it. I don't know whose property that is.
There
We
wasn't
went
one
back
there
there.
yesterday either.
There's one tent back there. It literally came to our location. We went to that location today.
Whose property is the one on Lemon Drive?
But again, we have to be careful of encampments from our perspective. Again, we get called to remove people from, or tenants from locations where people don't own that location. We can't just go and move it off this property, your property. You don't know, we have many residents in this area, like it or not, that has given permission to people to tent on the property. Some big company that given permission. I like that.
with all that.
So, in a nutshell, that's where the city council, town council is gonna become your friend.
We're gonna go to the gentleman behind the camera and then back row with your hand up.
Yes, hello, thank you. My name is Steve Anna. Appreciate being here. You try to figure out why this is a problem more so this year than in years past. We talked about encampments, and it seems as though they've always been there to some degree. The correctional facility dropping off people can't be a new thing, right? There's been prisoners in years past being dropped off. And so everybody that I talk to has a hard time comprehending, without any of these factors changing predominantly, why are the nuisances to the degree that was, talked about?
I think,
But I mean, is that a new thing though?
I think it's a great question. I asked the same thing. How did we get to this point? Even from May to now, it's compounded extensively.
I feel a lot, I personally bring it back to a lot of the money went away that we were housing people in when COVID came around. A lot of people from out of the area were giving housing, and the funds dried up and the rooms went away, and a lot of people didn't leave the area. And I'm not talking, I go through this, people from Berkshire, they all came to St. Albans for housing that was free for a while, for a couple of years, and that went away and they didn't leave. Combine that with, was 2018 when the other forum started?
Yes.
So we're in the beginning, before COVID, all that kind of came to a head, and it hit us now. Everything hits the whole country, everything comes West Coast, East Coast, and we're behind the curve, I think we're here now.
I would say ironically, we met, the city manager, police chief, Lieutenant Weatherby, we met in April expecting this to happen in May because of the closure of the hotels.
Now, I'm not blaming everything on that at all, but drugs are at a all-time low for price. The demand is an all-time high. It's a perfect
So
storm.
we thought it was gonna happen in May and it never did, and then it just progressively got worse. But the expectation was there when the hotels were gonna close, but to my earlier point, there's still a lot of new people in the community that I've never seen before. I don't think any of us have.
Petty crime too. I mean, there's no detox facility anymore.
Right.
And listen, I grew up, my dad worked in corrections, and petty crime, they used to deal with it a lot in St. Albans jail. People were held, they did time. You had to detox a little bit while you're in jail. And there was more accountability on that side, on the judicial side.
and I think the lack of accountability, I teach third grade, right? So if I let my students do things over and over and over that they shouldn't do with very little accountability, then they're gonna keep doing it. So I think that in addition to the drugs, I think the lack of accountability, maybe consequences, the lack of places, even if someone who is suffering from addiction wants to get treatment, to get into treatment in Vermont is not easy. People have to go drive hours and hours away, and if you are ready to get treated and you don't have someone to drive you hours and hours away to get immediately into a program.
So this three strikes drill, stuff like that, that's at the state level?
Yeah, and I mean.
Okay, we're gonna go to the back. If you wanna stand up, please.
I'm Jordan, I'm a city resident. Sunday morning, we had somebody prowling in our yard. My daughter's car got rummaged through. One night she claimed she left it unlocked. Okay, on the Sunday afternoon, I started receiving messages about vigilante groups taking care of the issues in St. Albans. My big question is when the victims decide not to be a victim anymore and they see somebody prowling in their car and they go out there, what level of liability is there on the city, on the state, on the person who's getting robbed at that point when they do go out there and confront?
It's your
If
fault.
you do something, it's your fault, you'll be arrested.
You will be arrested.
Hold on, Chief or Diane, can you address that?
Yeah, you don't want to exacerbate the problem by committing more crimes. I think that we've seen some of that have been the Berkshire area. And over Albans Street, that is, we've also had some down at Owen Park. So I think the best thing you can do is as a neighborhood watch, to get onto that committee and deal with it that way. Cameras are really an amazing tool as well.
Cameras are, except for cameras are after fact. This person was staring at my basement door. I have 3 minors live in my house. I have firearms that are locked up in my house. I've got kids on medication that are controlled substances that are locked up in my house. At what point do those of us who are residents have the right to defend ourselves?
Only if you're attacked. You can only reattach force when you force. So somebody comes at you. But the other thing, I also have had these issues, and it changed when I got a dog.
I have 3 of them.
I will tell you that Moose, the city of Burlington hates Moose, but he has been the best deterrent because somebody was trying to get into my.
Dogs is not the answer.
Okay, so my dog bites his person, breaks
You're liable.
else in my life.
Yeah. You're liable.
It's one strike against the dog.
Oh, so now I got a strike against the dog because somebody broke into my house. And just so everybody's aware, I appreciate everything you guys, the officers are doing in the city. I support you guys wholeheartedly. I've had conversations with some of you have had conversations with me. I'm not against anyone here, I'm asking questions because there's a lot of people who have these same questions that aren't gonna step up and ask.
No, I appreciate the conversation. I and Diane and Lieutenant can't sit, or the city council partner, can't sit here and tell you what to do to protect yourself or your family. It's all on the level that you feel, how well you articulate your level of threat and what you do to respond to that. Not saying to be a victim, but most times you can't protect your property with excessive force. But I also want you to be a victim of a safety issue either.
But if we don't have castle doctor, just remember that.
I'm sorry?
We don't have castle doctor, just remember that.
I get that. But
Okay, we're gonna move on from this subject. We're gonna go here and then the gentleman with the hat on.
I am Robert Trainer, we live on Albans Street. I just wanted to thank the board, Tim, yourself, and the board and police force for taking care of Tent City, Albans Street. It's been great. I know stuff has moved on and stuff, but we'll get it, we'll take care of it. You guys did us great, so.
Appreciate that, thank you. Gentleman with the hat on.
David Johnston.
My first question is, can the city ask DOC to take the bodies down to Burlington to a better transportation hub? Would that make more sense to ask DOC to do that? I mean, I don't know if they will, but.
I think your question is one of many that we have for corrections that we will need to, I don't know if we'll make any headway, but now that Ms. Wheeler has made us aware of their influence on the discussion, I think we will pursue those conversations for
No,
sure.
what he's saying, I've lived in town about 4 months now. I've been broken into twice. My car's been already hit twice. I've lived in a lot worse places. I used to live on the southern border, about 8 blocks north of the southern border. Never had this problem before. So it's a huge problem here. Just giving you my sharp approach. Are they stepping up? Are you guys not seeing you out doing your jobs? I'm asking for more, but are y'all stepping up your patrols in areas too?
We are doing as much as we can proactively. I'll be perfectly honest, everybody in this room, which you're probably getting from staff, but mostly reactively.
I deal with staffing issues too, so I understand.
It's not even staffing, it's just the amount of calls. We're out there, when they're not responding to calls, they're out there actually doing a lot of walking drills right now. The best they can, but nobody's in the office with that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time.
And just to defend the police, I work on crisis, I go on a lot of calls with these guys, and there are many times that these guys are on one call and they're being dispatched to another call. Like, they're very, very busy.
I get it.
Chief, one question for you would be, what could you use to better, and I'm not saying the force is bad by any means, but to make you more efficient and more effective?
So I mean, numbers, we could use more people, but that's not the end all be all. It's not gonna solve our crime problem. It's gonna just have more people deal with it. We need discussions like this. we do need video. I mean, I know your gentleman was saying it's reactive, but believe it or not, these videos, as frustrating as this for all of you here, sent us a video, that goes a long way, because that's how we're solving a lot of our crime right now. It may not, even if they just charge you a door handle, that same person did 3 other cars and got successfully in. Those are charges. We're using those videos every day. And in today's day and age, everybody's got cameras, or most of every other house. That goes a long way for us. And these people don't have a lot, so they're wearing the same clothing. When they did your car, charge your car, they did 2 stores. It makes a big difference. We need that cooperation. So communication's a big thing. The frustration level's high. It's just as high in my house, which is the PD. We all need to keep cooler heads. I understand the vigilante thought, but try to keep cooler heads. I don't want one of our guys arresting one of you in here for something that you did that reactive. It's not worth your time and trouble. I get it. Don't do that. Just stay calm. We'll get ahead of it. It's gonna take some time, but work with us and we'll make it the best we can. But throw us your videos. Send us information. Nobody's bothering us by sending information. Hey, they tried to store hand and didn't get anything, or they're wearing my garbage. That's important to us. The clothing is a big deal. That's what they wear. They wear it for weeks straight.
Wow, well, they switch it. They go in
Not
the
often. They don't have to.
And then without time, the police department.
Okay, we're gonna go to the
So I
gentleman.
just need cooperation. That's all we need. That's the biggest thing.
Thanks, Steve. Gentleman in the back with the hat, and then over here, John.
Mike Goslin. Couple questions for Mo. A couple things I've noticed, it appears, and I could be wrong, and I did have a case, something that happened to us where a vehicle was on one of our properties, the people were caught, well, I caught them stealing. Called it into the police, the guy had no front license plate, no rear license plate, no inspection sticker, window smashed, a decal on his windshield was blocking his view, no front headlights, but the vehicle was just totally trashed. So I called and it into the police officers, and they actually caught these people.
Yeah, I stopped it.
Huh?
I stopped it.
Right. And so my question is, the next day, I see that vehicle, and I'm coming from Burlington through Georgia, and that same vehicle, that personally I think he should have been taken off the road, vehicle should have been taken off the road. I don't know why, but it wasn't a traffic stop. I know it was a stealing stop. But he went through the Georgia school zone during hours at about 85 miles an hour. It seems that that vehicle just should have been off the road the day I called it in. And I know I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying, it doesn't appear that we're paying attention to traffic stops. I see people running stop signs, I see people speeding, guys with motorcycles with no helmets. I follow them in all the time when I see them. But it doesn't seem like there's anything being done about those. Are we ignoring the basics right now because there's too much other things going on?
We're not, I don't want to deflect this a little bit to Lieutenant Pelky, because he does a lot of our stats, but our traffic stops are generally monthly stats are, down, would you say, correct?
Traffic stops are down, but
They're still there. I mean, we're still running a lot of traffic stops, but we're doing, it's mostly reactive. So we're running, the past 2 months I've been here, we ran 50 and 60 stops, that's it for the month. So I would say in a normal month, prior to this last 3 or 4 months, we would probably double that. So we are doing less traffic stops than we normally do, but again, I go back to it more reactive than proactive.
Right.
So are we ignoring stuff? I would say no. In that case, that truck was in a parking spot when I got to him.
Yeah.
And he was actually not going too fast at that pace, but we were using that information, so, but no, I would say that, yeah, there is stuff that we could spend a lot more time doing traffic work if we weren't doing the first stuff.
So
I would love to be doing traffic work, that's what he
So
loves to do, that's what I
when
like
you
to do.
do traffic work, do you actually, because I'm not gonna name a name, but a different chief, and I'm not taking on you by any means, I think you do a fabulous job.
Yes.
When you go back to the basics, aren't you solving the bigger crimes? Isn't that what I understand?
So everything goes through a vehicle, right? So I came through the state police, right? So
Right.
20 years in the state police, like, one of my colonels was like, everything goes through a vehicle. Stop there, stop there. So that's great if you have time. I agree with you 100%. We had all the time in the world, or more time, I won't say it, more time. Yes, you stopping cars is the root of a lot of things. However, right now, the clientele we're dealing with every day, I believe most of them don't have a vehicle. In your case, he did have a vehicle, but most of them, I don't think have a vehicle right now. They're on pedal bikes, to be honest with you. That seems to be their mode of transportation.
My second quick question to you is, our problem streets are Main Street, Federal Street, and Lake Street. And do we have officers that can walk that on each beat?
They are trying to.
I know they're trying to, and I do see them out there, but it's just not enough.
Right.
Again, it goes back to college. Really, I mean, it's nice and they do walk as much as they can, but ironically, coincidentally, or realistically, as soon as they start walking, they're heading down to something else, so they've got to get back in vehicles.
So I beat this horse to death, but, and we don't get anywhere with it. But back in the day when I was a kid, I used to get arrested a lot by the part-time PEGs. So which I thought was great because they were good guys. But is there anything the public can do, like a security team or somebody that works in junction with you guys, or where you have an officer in the street and have other people walking the street? You know, just would maybe like say Albans City Security on the shirt, where they can call you if there's a problem.
It's interesting, so like community patrol type stuff, I mean, I don't know if we're there yet, I don't know what that would look like, I don't know what the liability would look like, what the parameters would look like.
Be a lot of help.
It'd be,
Talking about help.
I don't know if we're there, like, maybe discussion down the road, but you're asking about to put somebody in a spot that produces a lot of liability for them in the city. If these people, if you're trying to interact with somebody that doesn't go exactly where you'd like it to go. I don't know if the clientele we're dealing with, and these 15 people in particular, how responsive they would be to somebody telling them or asking them to do something and there's no authority behind it.
That's why we grabbed the radio.
That'd be my concern. So.
Chief, the 15 people you're talking about, just quickly, are they people who are currently unhoused, or are they, because I think that's important, because I think people who are unhoused are being lumped all together as all being the people that are stealing and doing drugs and like
so
that.
Of these 15 that we did this strictly by the contacts, meaning any time we interacted with them this calendar year, they had the most of everybody in our system.
Okay.
Which is thousands.
Okay.
Of these 15, every one of them is unhoused except one.
Okay.
So.
All right. Interesting.
So we also talk about the tenant ordinance. One thing to think about, 4 of these had become unhoused since we did some of the big SWAT warrants and they were evicted. So that's the other thing to think about.
As
that's
we
a byproduct of it, is when they get evicted, who else is gonna rent to them?
Right. And where do they go?
We're gonna go to Jonna.
Hi, my name is Jonna Damian. I'm actually living in Colchester right now, but I am from St. Albans and my family is here in St. Albans. So I'm extremely worried about them. There was an incident on Weldon Street and that was part of my family. So I am worried about my grandson, I'm worried about his sisters, I'm worried about his dad, and I'm worried about his dad's girlfriend. They're right in the worst part of it. And this isn't new. I mean, it's really intense right now. But 5 or 6 years ago, delivering Christmas presents in St. Albans, I was witness to a 3 pit bull attack on 2 small dogs. And the person who was in animal control drove to Winooski to speak to me at my job because everyone else was terrified. I'm the only one that spoke up, and I couldn't pursue it because my daughter and my grandson was next to this house. Was a drug dealer. His 3 pit bulls were loose. They tore apart 2 small dogs and scared the crap out of an old man. There were only 2 people, myself included, that helped. And I was asked to come to this committee at that time to say something about housing. And I could not because my daughter and grandson were next to this creek. So I'm here now saying, you guys are behind the ball. You should have been doing this years ago. You need to put it on the fast track. Whatever you need to do to make it happen so people aren't scared, people aren't terrified, and some stupid little drug dealer that is also suspected of murder isn't letting his pit bull shred other people and then expect someone like me to come and speak to you. You know, can you understand what I'm saying? Or, I don't know if I was clear enough. So this isn't a new problem for you. You really need to get your landlords involved, and you really need to pay attention, more attention to what's been going on, because this isn't a 3-month thing. 5 years ago, I watched this happen. The cops didn't come look for me. I had to go to the police station. I want to say it was you that I talked to, maybe not. You were in charge of the investigation for the pool.
John, I appreciate your story.
But I'm just saying.
We get your point.
Yes,
I would say that
I'm great for my family.
we're not, all of us are well aware of what's going on around the community.
But it's not new.
No, it's not new, it never has been new.
It hasn't been new.
Drugs
So
have gone back to,
everybody should like not act like it's some brand new thing. This
no, I
has
think,
been
I
going
think that,
on
I think the
long
amount, I think the amount is new.
time. Right.
There's always been the crimes, but not to the extent that we're seeing.
Well,
We're
this
gonna
guy
go-
was pretty scary 5 years ago.
We're gonna go to the gentleman with his hand up, and then the gentleman with the hat.
I would make a suggestion, if you really want to make some change, you have the banner up here on Main Street from John Gosling, and all are welcome here. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Well, as far as I'm concerned, and how I've been brought up, is we're all equal here through the Constitution to begin with. And if you want change, I would suggest Joe Luno to give you some change here.
Here, here.
I thought you were gonna suggest a new mayor. I'd be open to that discussion. Gentleman with the hat on?
You got it, doctor.
I'm Sean Bourgeois. I live in the town, but I worked for the city for 17 years. And I work for a great police department. I work for a great chief. And I just want to say this. Folks, you heard the numbers from the chief tonight. You have to understand a few things. I was in law enforcement for almost 3 decades. A situation like this, our officers are going to get burnt out. They're getting tired if they're not home. We need to look out for our officers, we need to watch out for their mental health. We need to take care of our police department. So I'm here to just say, I want to make sure, Chief, that your guys are doing all right and that they're being taken care of. And I know they are, but they're being worked like dogs, and I'm just worried about their mental health.
We need to support them so they can support us.
Secondly, I would just want to just make one comment to the chief. And I know that our atmosphere tonight is there's fear, everybody's afraid. I also think there's a piece of the unknown. I know, Chief, press releases, there's good and bad in press releases. I know the messenger does some snippets on behind the badge, kind of a synopsis of some simple stuff that the police department deals with. But I don't know if it would be a better idea if there could be more conversation, transparency with what the police department's been doing, to sort of calm the tension here in the city and kind of calm the unknown of what's going on. So, everybody's on Facebook, 2 cars are up the street, it must have been a drug bust, but nobody hears anything about it, so everybody starts the fish stories. And it's the wrong thing we want to be able to start our own fish stories. But I just think, at this point in time, with tensions being so high, fear so high, just being able to have a more transparent relationship, knowing what's going on in the community, it might help us relax a little bit in this atmosphere down here. And that's all I have to say. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. On that real quick, for those of you that, thank you, John. Those of you that don't know, we do post our stats on our website every month. So they're there, and it lists all our top calls, car stops. And we actually did that. We don't put a lot of press releases out. We put press releases out typically that impact the community, major drug bust, major case. We don't put them out for all arrests anymore. And kind of when I started this position, 4.5 years ago, whatever it was, I kind of took the position I didn't want to do a lot of press releases. And the reason was, it wasn't in the business to shame people for a simple arrest, for one. And the other was, a lot of times, a case goes to court and for whatever reason it gets dismissed, pled out, or it becomes a plea deal for another charge. And that person now is going for a job 5 years down the road, and the person who the person that's looking to hire them Google's their name and they see you got arrested, but they have a charge. That hurts that person potentially for life. So that's where I kind of looked at it. We did just start this discussion again 2 days ago about doing something different for arrests, so you guys have a general idea what we are doing. Because we are doing 800 arrests up to this point this year. 800, it's a lot that you're not knowing about. So we may do something different. It may just be a blanket. We made this many arrests this week for this many arrests with no name. We may see something different coming, but that's in the works. We'll see.
Thank you. We're going to take one last comment on this discussion.
Excuse me. I do have someone waiting patiently on the Zoom as well.
Oh, I did not see that. We got 2 more comments.
Melinda.
Melinda, we're going to go to you, and then we'll go to the Zoom caller.
Mine will just be quick, especially the last comment. So the chief does share the stats with the police advisory board, and that's an open meeting. So the fourth Tuesday of each month, the police advisory board meets upstairs at 5 o'clock in the second floor meeting room. And also to the gentleman who spoke, we have one more vacancy on the board for somebody who has a strength-based approach to being heard. Fantasy, that's all I got.
We talked to the guy with the blue hat on.
She's very persuasive.
The guy with the blue hat.
Oh.
Okay, we'll go to the Zoom caller. Please identify yourself. Hello?
Is it me? Can you guys hear me?
It's you.
Oh, okay, sorry. My name's Pat. I technically live in the town, but I'm very close to the city by Walnut Street. My question is the abandoned building at the end of Walnut on the radar?
The Quonset hut?
I'm sorry?
Are you referring to the Quonset hut?
Where the, like, right behind where the old Agway store used to be.
The ice house. The ice house.
Ice cream.
I mean, the ice house has been there since I've been here for it. Probably wait for it. You were there. If you're asking if it's on the radar, we know it exists. I can't tell you last time we were called down there for any issues.
Okay.
There are, the last time we walked through there, we actually talked about this today as well, 3 tents in there. That was probably 2 months ago. But we haven't been called down there for anything since probably May.
One of the buildings had burned down 3 years ago, right?
Multiple times. All that's left are walls. There's no roof on it.
Yeah, I understand there's no roof. I think I grew up here and I live on Pearl Avenue. A lot of families and it's peaceful, and we see a lot of people just coming out from the end of the road from the railroad tracks, and I didn't know if that was from that traffic area.
Likely.
Anything else?
No, I just want to, I mean, I know I'm not a city, like I don't live in the city, but I just want to say I applaud like the everything about what you're doing and like getting rid of the tents and everything, but I mean, it's a temporary fix and everything else is going to have to go through the state, I think, for a permanent fix because they need help, not just relocation. And that's it.
Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna move on to the next agenda item. Chief, thank you for coming in. Diane Wheeler, thank you very much for making time to come in. Paul, thank you for coming in.
Feel free to stay if you want to hear the next.
So I'm going to invite up Teresa Vezina, Executive Director of Vermont Cares, to give an overview of their program.
And is anyone here from Howard? Hi.
Hi, Teresa, how are you? Do you know if anyone from Howard is here with you?
I believe Andrew and Jackie are both here. We weren't sure if we would come up together or if we were coming up separately.
I think come up together. Do you want me to get more chairs?
You can grab those chairs, folks. I think they're done.
Thanks for waiting, you guys.
Of course.
Thank you for waiting.
All right, so we'll open up the conversation. If the three of you would like to introduce yourselves and talk about the Vermont Cares program.
Sure. My name is Teresa Vezina. I'm the Executive Director of Vermont Cares. I have worked at Vermont Cares for the last 13 years. I will say I'm a person with lived experience, a person who has struggled with substance use issues most of my life, and came to this work actually to help people. And I know that there is, I've been listening in to the conversations here this evening, and I understand there's a lot of frustration and concerns within the room. And I'm hoping that tonight I'll be able to share a little bit more about our work and sort of where I come from. We all have a role to play in the world, and I think I play maybe a different role than other folks, but we all have a place. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening to talk with you all.
Okay.
My name is Andrew. I'm a program supervisor at the Howard Center. And just to be really clear, the Howard Center and Vermont Cares are two separate entities just kind of doing similar work. Yeah.
My name is Jack Blueberry. I'm a practitioner at Howard Center. I split my time between a few locations at Howard Center. So I'm Burlington and then also the location here in St. Albans.
Thank you. So do you want to give an overview of the Vermont Cares program?
I sure can, yes. We're actually a statewide organization, and so our main office is in Burlington. We have offices in Rutland, St. Johnsbury, Barrie, and we have a mobile program here in St. Albans. We've actually been providing mobile harm reduction services here since 2014, and probably in about 2017, 2018, we worked actually with Melinda quite closely to help to increase our access here for folks that might be needing our services. So that has, over all of these years, we've had many different partnerships with different community organizations like the Howard Center. We also went to many of the motels, Cadillac, for instance, Econo Lodge, and most recently we were at Martha's Kitchen, and we're now partnering with CVOEO at Community Action. And so really our role in the community is to provide not only harm reduction services for people who are actively using. We do work specifically with people who are in active use, because we do believe that everybody, whether you're in active use or not in active use, actually deserves to have access to health services and the support that we often need that we don't get in other places. So harm reduction is a very specific type of program, and I know it is not accepted by all, but it doesn't have to be, right? Like, we all have our place, and for myself, how we look at our services here and in all the other communities that we serve in, which we've been doing since 2002 in the state of Vermont. We are the state's largest, widest reaching syringe service program across the state. And we were very thoughtful when we started working here in St. Albans way back in 2014, 15, 16, and 17 to provide community forums and community training and to really reach out through the partner network to let people know about who we were and what we were doing. Many, many years have passed, and I understand that the environment has changed. Everything has changed, as it does so quickly. And so I'm here hopefully to answer any questions people have. I won't go into a big spiel about everything that we do, but I do want to be here as a resource for the community.
Can you start by giving a definition of harm reduction?
Well, that is, there's two different ways you can look at harm reduction, and one is the interventions, which are, well, as the word says, to reduce harm for people that are using drugs. There are many different risks involved, whether that's infectious disease transmission, whether that's overdose, whether it is soft tissue, skin infection, but there are harms involved. So the more practical part of harm reduction is about those interventions and strategies through sterile syringe, safe disposal, HIV and hepatitis C testing, naloxone distribution, those types of things. And then honestly, the other piece of harm reduction is about, it's about a philosophy. It's about, I heard someone here in the audience talking about compassion, and I understand there is also such a thing as compassion fatigue. For us, it is also about just understanding that the human beings that we're serving, even in their worst part, at their worst, are someone's son, daughter, loved one, and they may have had a spell of hard luck or a lifetime of hard luck, and that they still deserve to be treated as humans, and that by doing that, we potentially, I've seen so many people come back to us and say, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be alive. It might take years, it might take months, but everybody deserves that place, that safe place to go, and we find ourselves as like maybe one of the only places when everybody's burned all their other bridges, they can't burn necessarily a bridge with us.
So you hand out free needles.
Absolutely.
Do you require that needles are returned at the same time?
There's no actual requirement. That would be called a one-for-one program. And when I started working at Vermont Cares 13 years ago, the program was a one-for-one program, but it was based on the city sort of that you were working in. And at that time, we only had a program in St. Johnsbury. The best practice for syringe service programs is not to have any requirements, but what we do provide are safe sharps containers so that people can have something to safely store their syringes in, and then we take them back. We do free disposal, not only for people that are using our program, but anybody in the community. Quite honestly, we take in all sorts of sharps from anybody that has sharps that they are looking to dispose of. And we have a contract with the state, and they help us to then properly get those out through Stericycle for proper disposal. So we give out free sharps containers to anybody that would need those.
I can appreciate where you're coming from in terms of the compassion and whatnot. From our perspective, our community has lost its patience with needles. We have needles found at the public library, church entrances. We have to have parents go to the football field every day before practice, walk the field to make sure no child is tackled on a needle. I can tell you from a personal perspective, I do not favor the free needle program. And until we get to a point where you do get back to a one-to-one, you won't have my support, and I'll let the council speak for themselves. But this is not helping us in any shape or form. When our kids are at risk, picking up a needle, our courthouse picks up 10 needles a day on their back steps, on their front steps, in the grass on the front yard. More needles isn't solving our problem. And I get there's probably some language, some studies that say it does, but from a community perspective, it does us no good. And if you want to continue the program, we need to sit down and talk about repercussions, one-to-ones, and how we might improve the situation. When there's no accountability, that doesn't help our community at all. And you feel free to address that, and then we'll open it up to the other.
Yeah, I would like to address that actually. So from where I sit, it is also about access. And so we are actually only here in the city of St. Albans for 2 hours a week. And this is because we've seen in other communities where we have a regular presence, that these issues are actually less likely to happen. We have a very limited amount of time that we're able to be here, and being moved from a location to another location has actually been very difficult. I think, quite honestly, together with Safe Recovery, we were trying to increase our availability. Sometimes it is about being more available. We are actually really excited about the partnership with Community Action, because we know we actually serve some overlapping, clientele. And so we thought, okay, we have the option now to be at a place where maybe we're more visible, we're able to take in more sharps, we're able to be more available, quite honestly. And so I don't know that making things more difficult would actually help. I think that regardless of whether we give out syringes here in St. Albans or whether we don't, people that use syringes will use syringes anyway. And so I would love to have that conversation and learn how we might be able to work together actually to provide more support to people who need it, because ultimately we're not going to be able to save everybody. But if we can save one person or two people or someone's son or daughter, I was saved. And I know my mother had given up on me. But I don't want to give up on people. And being available is really, really important. So I would like to sit down outside of this space and have a conversation about what this looks like. We'll bring in, I talked with Paul from CVOEO and Jess, and we work closely with Samaritan House, with Robert and Ben, and and Melinda, and I really believe that there has always been a true community support around what we're doing, and we're not always going to do it exactly right, but I can see where there's an increased need, and we haven't been able to meet that need for a lot of reasons, which I won't get into, as we all know, around funding and all those things, but that's not an excuse. So if we could talk more, I'm super open to that.
Judy.
Do you have stats on how many how many needles you've handed out in St. Albans and how many you've received. Like, I'm curious to know, like, how many have you given and how many have you received?
We have about an 80% return rate. That's across all of our, we serve 11 counties in the state. So it varies, but I can get you exact numbers.
That would be
actually.
great.
Yeah.
I think a huge challenge that I have in hearing from local business owners and community members is the location that you're handing out. Like, I think your mobile unit has been on Lake Street, which is like right outside a very well-known drug house. And there are businesses there that are struggling with their businesses because of the activity going on in the area. So if this is something that is going to continue, I think that we need to make your mobile unit not in the hub of downtown, because we have to look out for our business owners, our community members. In my opinion, it should be at a place where there is treatment or at BART. So maybe you get the folks who need the needles closer to the door of going in for actual recovery. The litter is just, it's out of control. I mean, the portalette people are mad at us from the portalettes we have in the park because they're filled with needles. And I think that the empathy that we have had in the past might be waning a little bit because some folks are starting to come into our cars and into our porches and into our houses. And I think it's interesting that the state I crunched some numbers, they're probably not exact, but I feel like as a state, we put the equal number of dollars, millions, into the harm reduction pot that we do into treatment and recovery. And I feel like, in talking with people who work in the field of recovery, we need more treatment. I feel like that pot should be 50-50, but that's just me.
They're actually one and the same too. A lot of people can be in treatment and have a harm reduction focus, and actually people who have access syringe service programs are 5 times more likely to enter treatment. So that is an access point, and that is something that is already occurring.
But do you understand the concerns of like business owners? If you're in front of Catalyst and they're trying to sell coffee and pastries, and all the folks who need clean needles are coming outside to get them from your mobile van, that's a problem for the business.
We actually recognize that location is really important, and is why we created this partnership with Community Action. We actually had a partnership with Howard Center as well, where we parked at the hub, their hub across from the hospital. We've actually had many different locations. As I said, we started working here in 2014, and we also do a lot of delivery outside of the city, actually, where we're going out to Grand Isle counties and some of the more rural pockets. So we're not asking people to come into the city. We're actually we drive to them on other days of the week. And I think that whether our van is on Lake Street or not, that activity is actually it's still going to happen, right? That activity isn't happening because we're there. And so I understand though the visibility is a problem for folks, and I get it. There's always been NIMBYism, right? Like, we understand that. And we actually were really, we do try to partner with other organizations that provide other wraparound services. That is our hope and model. And so we do that in other communities. If you all have ideas for us on what might be, more appropriate for you all, what you're thinking, but I think Community Action is a really appropriate community partner to be with. And we just recently signed the MOU with them to just park in their parking lot. And so that way folks are there accessing other services that they might need. And if they also need ours, we're there for them. And we are trying to actually hire another person so we can increase availability. And to speak to the funding, actually, harm reduction programs for the last 20 years have received $400,000 a year of state funding, and that was to share between all 4 programs in the state. So it isn't a 50-50, not even close.
No, I'm referring to the 2023 bill, with all the opioid settlement dollars.
Yes, and I fought really hard for that, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting point with the access point. Do you guys have a number of like the number of people you work with versus the number of people that actually use you as an access point for recovery?
Well, again, we're two separate organizations, so so Howard Center does offer safe syringe program and that is embedded in treatment. I don't have the statistics today. We were given pretty short notice for this meeting, but yeah, and I think it's consistent with the evidence. Again, sometimes it may not be as quick as we'd like. It may take years sometimes for that to actually happen, but the point is that it does happen.
And truthfully, recovery doesn't start when people stop using substances. Recovery starts whenever somebody decides they want their recovery to start, right? If the point of this is to help people where they're at, like that's what we're doing, and recovery starts then. It's not once they become sober and they're abstinent from everything. That's not what's the most helpful for a lot of people.
I think too, as a healthcare provider, I think one of the bigger thing too in perspective that might be helpful is it would be a public health crisis if we weren't providing safe injection equipment for people. As we know, people do behaviors all the time that we know are not good for ourselves. We eat a sleeve of Oreos when we're already overweight, or we have diabetes or high blood pressure. Like, we use substances that we know because of the way we're using, we might contract an infectious disease. The rates of hepatitis C and HIV would dramatically increase if people were sharing needles. It's the number one way that it's contracted. And by providing people with access to this, it's a healthcare service.
I would counter that's more of a risk for our children, correct?
What's more risk? I'm sorry.
To contract hepatitis if they get poked with a needle or...
Oh, the rate of transmission from an accidental needle stick is actually incredibly low. I think it's actually really scary though as a parent. I understand why that is something we don't want to see in our parks, but the science says that in fact you would have to use that needle to inject. So an HIV virus dies in 3 seconds after hitting the air, and hepatitis C virus lives only inside the barrel of a syringe for up to 6 weeks sometimes, but only inside the barrel. So it doesn't actually live anywhere else. And so that risk is actually fairly low, but the idea of it, I understand, is unpleasing and it is scary. And we actually enlist our participants often and say, hey, like, here's an extra container. Here are some gloves. Like, can you help us out? Like, there's so many people that come into the program and they're making a really actually a healthy choice for themselves. And I know it's hard to understand that, but when someone actually steps into the door and they come and they're asking for help, it might not be the same kind of help that we all, maybe folks here might think about as help, but it is a first step towards doing something that's more responsible, that is looking after their health actually. And a lot of folks that we serve are trying to help other people in their community who've not yet even been able to come and see us. It's really hard to walk into a syringe exchange and admit that you're a person who uses drugs and that you need help. Our staff, like myself, a majority of us are people who have used drugs, that have lived experience, and we can help people to see that there is another way, that they're loved, even if they are a hot mess, and even if their whole life has fallen apart, but they're still loved and cared about. That's the start of healing. And you know, it looks different for everybody, and I understand, like, we can do more around trying to get more of those syringes back. I'm not saying that we can't. And we will make a commitment to do that, but I also want to have more of a presence actually. And I know that probably feels counteractive to you all right now, but I think that we all know that, like, if a positive, we are a healthy positive person for people to come in contact with. And so if folks who haven't quite found their way yet have an organization and have a team of people who can support them, without judgment, and it might mean the difference for them in making that change in their life. Everyone deserves another chance. I've needed dozens of chances to get where I'm at today. I should be dead, right? I should be in jail. Actually, I have been in jail. But you know, it's like, it's hard, and I just want to empathize. I empathize with this group of people because there are so many other complex issues that don't really have to do with whether or not we give out sterile syringes or not. Those other issues are actually about something else. But I do 100% believe by having programs like ourselves to support people who aren't being who can't be supported by other folks right now, is a positive thing for the community.
And by providing that connection and developing the relationship, we can have those conversations and really urge people like, look, we live here too, our kids play here, please help us clean this community up. Unfortunately, many are not housed. They don't have a place to carry around a syringe container with their backpack because they're choosing between that and the 3 water bottles that they have. So I think to just kind of keep that relationship going and encourage that. I know the Howard Center in general has done some unique things specific to Burlington and their syringe exchange program, and we didn't require a one-to-one exchange, but we did start incentivizing exchange returns. And so for people who would return a significant amount of syringes, they got to pick from, we called it a happy basket, and it was phone chargers, candy, things like that to try, because it's a we want to keep our communities and public spaces safe and clean, and sometimes people just need a little extra help in understanding why that's important.
I just want to say one thing real quick too. I don't want to lose the fact of all of the people that we do help, and not just focus on maybe the few people who we are helping, but they are not they aren't disposing of their syringes right. Like, it's easy to kind of focus on this because it is scary. Like, I don't want to walk to the park with my 4-year-old daughter and see syringes at all. Like, that's the last thing I want to see. And one of the hard things about being a treatment provider is privacy, confidentiality, where we can't share lots of things, where we do help a large portion of people and don't want to just focus on maybe some of these other folks who have very unique, complex challenges.
It would be nice. It would be nice in the future to get a list of or some data as to how many people you do see in St. Albans, what you've done for each. We don't need names obviously, but what you've done for each individual.
I can actually do that along with numbers of referrals that we've made to different other services, again, all collated. And I guess just to give you like a roundabout number, like if we gave out like 1 million syringes this year, but took back in 700,000, right? So we'd like to put the numbers into perspective. The majority of syringes are coming back in actually. And if people were getting those syringes from a pharmacy or other source and they didn't have a place where they could return them, those additional syringes, they would still be being used, but maybe out on the street. And we do have access to be able to pull all of those data reports for you. And I think I'll just need to get like a email specific to this. Yep, absolutely.
I want to go to Chad. Chad, any question?
Yeah, I guess comment first. Actually, I got a question first. When you talk about like self-harm reduction in any of your programs, you both can answer this, but what's set up for if someone comes to a mobile unit or to the Howard Center to not necessarily not get a needle, but say, I want to detox. I want to detox today. I want to detox and then get found a rehab bed today. What is in place for that in any of your programs?
At Howard Center, it can be that day. We do walk-ins every day of the week. It depends on what substance they want to detox from. Pretty much anything other than alcohol and benzos is safe to do on an outpatient basis. If not, unfortunately, they may have to go to the hospital, but we work with the local EDs to coordinate that. And we have case managers, healthcare providers, nurses, clinicians, all on site and can do same day treatment. We are not an inpatient facility at Howard Center, but we can start that process for somebody. We can start medication like Suboxone that same day if it's appropriate and if somebody wants that, and get them a referral to inpatient treatment.
Is that in Chittenden County or Franklin County as well?
Both. Yep.
Now, you had a detox center in Franklin County at one point?
No, that was a public inebriate program where the police or if somebody would pick somebody up for being intoxicated and they would kind of sober out. and then leave. But it wasn't a detox. It wasn't a medical detox.
So I just want to get the pro. So if someone comes to either the mobile van or the Howard Center, maybe you got to speak differently on it because I get the different.
I could
programs.
speak differently for CARES than
So-
Howard Center.
So if someone comes in, says, I've been using heroin or abusing fentanyl.
Yeah.
What is the process to get them to detox first and then rehab second? What does that look like?
We would do a full clinical assessment to kind of see what their needs are. It's very dependent on what's going on with the person when they walk through the door. We do our best to kind of meet the individual where they are at and to assess and screen for what is the most appropriate level of care. Ideally, we're giving the least restrictive level of care for the most effective treatment, which sometimes could mean referring to a Valley Vista or to a Serenity House, which are these inpatient programs. They notoriously have very, very long wait lists, and it often looks like us supporting them in an outpatient setting, maybe with medications, maybe with not, for up to 2 or 3 weeks until they are ready to kind of get to those places. We also have an IOP program, an intensive outpatient, which for many people is proven to be just as effective as inpatient, and that has proven to have a pretty small wait list, and typically can start on the next day if they are ready for that level of treatment.
And do you find that because of those long waits that sometimes people don't seek or change their mind or get re-influenced to maybe start using again?
Yeah, definitely. I think changing anything is hard. Any behavior change is hard. Changing any behavior that is associated with something that just inherently feels good is also incredibly hard. It's not a, it is a biological, it's a psychological, it's a sociological issue. It's a phenomenon that we all kind of interact with. It's not, it takes time and change is slow.
Would you like that? So what happens if you go to like a mobile?
Yeah, I was gonna say our process is different because we don't, like Howard Center, we don't have our own treatment program, but what we do have are partnerships with low barrier programs. We actually make a lot of referrals to Better Life Partners, which that they can provide immediate access in the same day, access to Suboxone treatment, if that's the type of thing someone's looking for. But also, I mean, I've personally driven people to programs before. Anything that we can do to support a person when they're ready, I would literally drop everything to take that person to wherever they needed to go. We've purchased, cabs to go all the way down to Valley Vista for people. If someone is ready, we're gonna move mountains to help them to get into the program that's best for them.
And then I do just have one quick comment. So when we met with the director of CVOEO, he talked to us about increasing beds, doing emergency services, and I guess I can't talk for the council, I can talk for myself. I think one of the frustrations, and I'm all for having clean needles, I do believe that there's a big public health risk in using dirty needles and all that, but I think that within the budgets of these programs, and I know they can be taxing at times, but there is accountability, whether it's around the CVOEO building, if they want more beds, accountability has to be made, the area has to be clean. If we want more access and more mobile time, I would like to see more people from everybody's organization helping to educate, clean up, because if you gave out $1 million, even if you got 700,000 left, there's still 300,000 needles on the street, and I think us as a community would really like to see some efforts, some compassion would come back your way if there was efforts from your communities to look at our parks, to educate the people that are grabbing your needles, because there are a lot of needles dropped, and it's not a small number. I mean, there's a huge number of needles that have been picked up this summer in St. Albans. So that means there's a large amount of people.
We did encampment cleanup with Samaritan House. We sent staff down to help with cleanup efforts. We had someone literally just picking up not only syringes but trash, and we've done we are trying, and I know that we could do better. So if there are specific initiatives that you all are interested in, like floating our way, it does take everybody though, and I like that you said that. And there was also in a bill, not this session, but the previous session, that allocated $150,000 towards a state initiative around creating more just kind of regular sharps disposal options for folks. We actually did a pilot in Barrie where we helped to really just develop a community toolkit around safe sharps disposal for communities. We worked with Mary Pickner way back at the health department, getting in some of the very first sharps wall units in the health department. We've worked up at northern counties, putting in wall units there. I did a community group where we trained different staff and volunteers in St. Johnsbury from a whole group of community partners, BART and the hospital and the recovery center. And I went in and did a training, and we created a group of people that, hey, if someone called in a syringe, we'd say, hey, are you over near such and such? And they had all the supplies. We provided them with everything that they needed. And these are initiatives that we have been working on for as long as I've been at Vermont Cares. But again, it is so hard. We're just still only one very small organization that serves 11 counties with 9 staff. And so we really can only really just do as much as that we can. But it's not that we don't want to do more. And so again, happy to have other offline conversations with you all to build that relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do the addicts know where you are when you're in a city or in a location? How does the word get out to them that you're doing this on, say, Lemonade Drive or someplace like that?
It actually takes a very long time. As I said, we have been here providing this service since 2014. I was personally the person driving my Prius here in 2014, and I was serving like 5 people, but I drove up anyway. And it takes time to build that trust, and it is a word of mouth thing. And the one thing that I saw a big difference was when there was a place that people felt safe at, and where they could know, like once a week, just for these 2 hours, this is where you can find us. That actually turns out to be a really good model. And that's why we also do they can call and just get a delivery. So that way for folks that don't have transportation, that live far out of town, we actually go to them. And so it isn't so much about finding us. They can call us, they can reach out to us on our mobile app, they can text us. And a lot of times it is word of mouth. We call it peer-to-peer referrals. So a friend tells somebody, hey, these people are actually pretty cool. You can trust them. And then it is about building a relationship with people. It's such a big part of what we all do every single day, no matter what our profession is. And in this particular group of people, it is even harder to build that trust. And so a lot of people we don't actually see, right? Like until they feel comfortable. So it's a little bit of everything, but we don't advertise we don't do advertising or promotion or anything like that. It's people find us as they can, but we do talk to community partners, and I think that's the other piece. It's like if we're partnering with community action, we'll have a tear off poster at their offices. If we're tabling at the summit that Melinda puts on at the Champlain Valley Fair, that's how we got connected with Robert. It's like because we're serving some of the same people, and it takes a village. And so if we can talk to another partner who's doing a similar work or something different, we can then help to provide that wraparound service. And I go back again that we each have our lane. We each have our niche. And our niche is very different from somebody else's. But I think that I have found in my, over a decade doing this work, that it has been about the the community support and partnerships of everybody involved.
Over that decade, did you ever reach out to the city manager or the police?
Early on, and we can look back at, I don't remember the dates, but we started up here in 2014. I actually did trainings here in the city available to EMS providers, community at large. I also went to the FGI, community meeting, and I think Melinda might be in the room, but really, I actually worked very closely with Melinda, and I did speak to, at the time, the police chief. We're very thoughtful when we move into a community. We do not just come in without talking to people.
I would just say that was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been good to have that conversation more recent, especially with the new legislation that was passed. That it would have been nice to know, not only as a city council, but city manager and the police as to what the intent was.
I believe 3 years ago when the Howard Center started their mobile exchange as part of this federal low barrier grant, I believe Melinda was also part of those conversations with chief of police and all sorts of different community partners and stakeholders to kind of make aware of what our intentions are and how we can all collaborate together.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so what do you have, a van that you're going in?
Yeah.
And you decide where you're gonna go based on what?
The ask, the request.
Okay, and so you're invited in the community?
We've been invited into many communities. I would say that in this particular instance for us, if I track back those 10 years, it was a different landscape, right? And so a few people had reached out, and it started out as the Sharps disposal, right? When Mary Pickner reached out to me, and we started really working with Mary on the Sharps, the Safe Sharps project. Mm-hmm. And so we were invited in that way when we first came to St. Albans, actually. And then she learned that we also had this other program. We were just getting our mobile program off the ground. We got a grant from the Elton John Foundation, and they purchased our first mobile van, which also is, a full office. It can do HIV testing. People can come inside the van, and I was just saying to a colleague of mine as we were driving up here, how many people I've tested for HIV or hepatitis C in the van. Here in St. Albans, actually, when we first started, and that's how we got our first invite here.
But those practices need to be allowed, right, by the municipality?
We are waivered by the health department, so we are registered, we are authorized syringe service program, and we operate under the guidelines that the state health department provides for operating a syringe service program.
I could put an ordinance together and say, I don't want any needle exchanges in downtown St. Albans.
You could come and say that, sure.
I just think it would, and I agree with, number one, I agree with what he initially said, what the mayor initially said. But number two, I think I agree with, it would be nice for you to come in here and talk to the council and the mayor and the city manager and the chief of police and say, A, can we be here? Because I don't ever remember seeing any license for you to be operating in the city of St. Albans. But two, where would be the best place for us to operate if we were allowed to operate here? And three, what times and what days would we be here? And none of that's ever happened.
We operate under the guidelines of the state health department,
Yeah.
and
State initiative.
Not for an exchange.
Yeah.
Not to give away free needles. I can regulate that. This council can regulate that in the municipality anytime they want. So you're not here, you can't just walk in and say, hey, look, I'm gonna start giving away free needles in the community.
Yes, I can.
I don't think you can.
Yes, I can.
So you're telling me I can't put an ordinance together that says there's not gonna be no free needle exchange in downtown St. Albans?
I
thought you just said I could do that.
Well, I'm not saying you can't request to do that, but I'm also saying that as a state registered syringe service program, we are authorized to do, that's our job, actually. And so we actually are legally authorized to provide syringe service program. And do I think that we could have come and talked to you? Sure, but the one thing that, for me, you have to think about from where I sit, we had been operating here for so long that with no issues, with no problems for all of these years, that it never actually, quite honestly, it never really dawned on
Well,
me.
I think you came in under the radar because what we're facing since this summer is a huge explosion over what was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I mean,
And that's why we're here today, right? So.
upon our invite.
Yes, and sometimes it requires that, and I don't live in St. Albans necessarily, but I'm happy to come when requested. All I'm saying is, because we've been operating here for so long, and we did do our due diligence when we started operations here, that it is an oversight, I suppose, on our part that we didn't connect with new leadership, and I take responsibility for that. But we are also not the cause for what's been happening in this most recent, explosion of things.
And I don't want to imply that either.
Respectfully as well, we did come, I got a phone call, 6 days ago when we are here talking about our programs, but equally as much, if there was all of these noticing of these big problems, you could have came to our programs and learned about what we were doing and collaborated as well.
That's why we invited you here.
That's why you're here today.
That's why we invited you.
I'm just saying.
I think the hard thing to wrap my head around is that I know that you've been doing this, I guess, for 10 years. I didn't realize that. And it's been happening in Burlington. And it feels like when I believe you that it's making a difference health-wise. But what I see is that the drug activity and the level of addiction that I see people suffering with is so huge that it makes me wonder, like, is this really helping, or is it just perpetuating a problem? It just seems so big, much bigger than it was 10 years ago. So I'm confused. I know Melinda's being so
The
patient.
fentanyl adulterant problem is real, and that is a much different substance than what we have encountered before, right? It is different than heroin, it is different than Oxycontin, it is much stronger. You need a much, much smaller dose to have a much more potent response, and it's got a much shorter half-life. And so people are using more and becoming more addicted. They're getting, the tolerance they're building up is much stronger, and that is part of what is going on here. It is the substance that is available is much stronger.
I also don't mean to minimize the issue at all. I live in this community. I live in Burlington. I pick up syringes on my way into work, on my way out of work. I don't particularly enjoy doing that either, but I also will challenge it a little bit. And again, not to minimize it, not that it's a direct comparison, but we know people are going to do these behaviors whether we provide things or not. Will we all of a sudden take away all the condoms in the world because we don't want people to have sex? No, we know people are going to have sex whether we provide them with condoms or not.
Sex isn't illegal. Doing drugs is illegal, and it's harmful. It's causing crime. You're making comparisons about illicit drug use to something that is normal and natural, and things that everybody does.
And people are,
It's no comparison.
But people
to
are
crimes and sex.
people are going to use drugs whether we give them a sterile syringe or not. Somebody that is using heroin is not gonna be like, oh crap, I don't have a clean needle, I'm not gonna use it right now.
We're gonna, any other questions from the council?
I just have a comment, I guess. I think a lot of people view this program as sort of enabling the problem. I think your intentions are probably in the right place, but I think it's coming off as that. Look at diabetics need needles, so I just think that that's the image to some that is portrayed. You're kind of contributing to the enabling of this problem.
Any other questions on the council? We're gonna take a few questions.
Melinda, she's been waiting.
What's that?
Melinda.
I have 3 on Zoom.
Okay, we had the lady in the back row. Shannon, to your right, you had a question quite a while ago.
Is there an age limit to giving out these needles?
The age limit for Vermont is 18.
So nobody below 18?
That's
And
there's a minor certificate that can come from a person's parent or their physician. If someone is under the age of 18, and that's just.
So you ask for ID?
No, they actually would self-identify.
So, and then, just my quick comment is this, one stick to any child in St. Albans is one too many.
Absolutely.
Did you pass or did you?
My name is Tina Beaudry. I'm wondering how many taxpayer-funded needles, syringes have you given out every month to our community?
I don't know that we have that.
Do you have that?
Well,
How many syringes do you give out in St. Albans every month that are funded by the taxpayers? I'm assuming you're.
I could tell you that number, which is what they sort of asked for before, was how many syringes in, how many syringes out. And actually the reason that we asked for opioid settlement funds was because those funds come from a different pot of money. We actually also receive tobacco settlement funds towards our program. So actually there's very little taxpayer dollars that go into our programs.
I'd be interested in how much of the taxpayers, because we're paying on both ends. We're paying for the syringes and then we're paying to clean up our community too. And as a taxpayer, I'm paying my taxes and I'm having to deal with people in my backyard, which is coming from passing out syringes. So it's a circle.
I'm gonna, syringes, but
Well,
don't forget
the
Melinda.
Thank you. We're gonna take Kate. She's been waiting for a while online, and then Melinda. We will go to you, I promise. You have to be
Hi
home.
there, can you hear me?
Yeah, she does.
Yes, we can hear you, Kate. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kate LaRose. I lived for over a decade in St. Albans on Mason Street by Limna Drive. I was a program director at CBOEO. Before I moved, I knocked on over 2,000 doors around the city, meeting and talking to all of my neighbors. I never once felt afraid walking the streets by myself, including at night. But listening to community members in the room speak tonight with their desire and lust for vigilante action and the city leadership's quiet approval of such makes me incredibly sad and fearful for what the St. Albans community has become. After leaving St. Albans, I moved to a small town that had one individual, just one, experiencing houselessness. She was disabled and in her 70s. Rather than respond with compassion, the select board and community members responded by attempting to make her very existence illegal. So she moved into my backyard and nearly died from hypothermia while waiting 6 months for housing that never materialized. I share this because at the time, many of my St. Albans friends titsed, saying how terrible that was. Many of these people have been completely silent in the past weeks and months in the face of this cruelty and othering. I want to be really clear that this hatred doesn't stem from what people ostensibly say that it stems from. It's not about substance use disorder. It's not about crime. It's not about alleged pedophiles. It's because as a society, we simply hate the poor and the disabled. St. Albans, you are in the process of losing your humanity. It's lost slowly over time by good people staying silent. And then, all of a sudden, it's gone overnight. Just like the town that wanted to outlaw the existence of a disabled 75-year-old, your true colors are showing. And I want to thank the people with lived experience, especially who have showed up tonight in the room, who are running programs, even despite having select board members, attorneys, lawyers, trying to negate their existence and trying to make sure that they could put as many barriers as possible in the way of people needing medical access the most. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Melinda?
Yes, I'm Melinda White, and I wasn't gonna say anything, but since my name's thrown out so much, I just want to bring some context, so I don't have as much, I'm not adding emotion or opinion to anything, I'm just gonna add a few dates. So it was back in 2014 that Teresa and I connected. I was working at Turning Point back then and connected on getting more resources in our community. So that was in 2014 when the Howard Center was looking to get a new medical mobile unit out in the community. In 2022, we did connect with Chris Smith, acting as the director. We did connect with the 5 local law enforcement organizations that I work with. So we did connect to talk about that. That specific unit is just now getting out, so there was a big delay, and that was by no fault of anything aside from like manufacturing of it. So I just want to get the dates out there. So the 2014 with Vermont Cares was when I connected with Teresa, and they've been doing their thing since. The Howard Center mobile unit is a medical unit, so it's a little bit different in what they offer because it's going to be like on-site access to medication-assisted treatment. So I say all of that only because the landscape changes a lot. And like I'm in recovery, now I work in recovery, the recovery field, right? So I don't work in clinical inpatient, outpatient treatment. I work in the emergency department, but for the recovery center. So my biggest passion is with the recovery service delivery because of the whole peer aspect and especially because of the partnership and the communication. So I guess the reason I'm not gonna be really passionate in any way, because I think everybody makes valid points, is that there's no one way to resolve this, but the communication is the key. So like some of the attacks that I hear, I feel bad for the people that are attacking, because I thank God if they got counseling and came with some good, like just factual stuff that we can talk about solution, but it's really about the communication, because if, I don't wanna say that. So the landscape has changed, that there might be some things that I used to think were a great idea that I may still think are a great idea, but maybe not at the places that they were before, because things have changed. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like getting the communication going without like the head-getting approach, but the whole, if this specific service isn't a good idea for this location, cool, then let's talk about that now. It doesn't mean it was never good in the past or there isn't ways that it could be down the road, but I think it's just understanding what the language is, what is treatment, what is recovery, what is abstinence, and none of it is bad. I can appreciate the whole spectrum of harm reduction, treatment, recovery, and for me, abstinence is always gonna be like, that's the best case scenario, because you're not injecting crap in your system, right? So that's always gonna be the best case scenario. But I don't think that it's gonna be any one way. I feel like we underfund our residential treatment programs that help people get off drugs, and we've done a lot of funding in ways to help them continue substance use. And I don't think that's bad, but the problem is now the pendulum is like, instead of saying abstinence only, which wasn't right in the past, now we're saying keep using. So I really think it's taking a step back and looking at the big picture, that if somebody's going to an SSP and says, I wanna go to treatment and I wanna get off all this, it's so freaking hard to do. So we really need to not even get more funding, but it's like reappropriate where some of the funding is going and maybe not put it in new ideas or things that will make more robust harm reduction, but something that keeps it across the board, that each partner can do a warm handoff. And there's bad at treatment, so they can actually get off drugs too. So there really needs to be, it's all partners, because every organization plays a role. Everyone is needed, but it's different per person. I don't think a person who's done heroin 3 times needs harm reduction. They need recovery right off, you know, and I don't think people need medication immediately because they've used an opioid. But there are people that have been using that opioid, that medication saves their life. So it's just not black and white, but it's communication. And I think it's from everything from law enforcement to the municipality, and it's gotta be in partnership if there's something that, especially in the community, that the community says, not here, not right now, then let's respect it and let's talk about then how, or what are the other options. So I just wanted to put that out there because I hear my name thrown all over. So I just wanna make sure, like, my stance, I wanna keep my opinion out of any of the services. I think they all serve a purpose, but I think that we need, what I'm advocating for is more communication by people who can remain like level-headed, and not just blanket statement and judge, because I live here too. I love and care for people that struggle with addiction, and I also don't think that doing no accountability is gonna help our community, because if that's the way it was for me, I would not be here. So there's gotta be some balance brought. That's it, sorry, I gotta go, but
Thanks, Melinda.
At 3:30, so that was 2014. We tried again with the medical mobile unit with Chief, but that's not live yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go to Liz, we're gonna go online, and then that's gonna be the last one. Heather will have the last word. So Liz, we'll turn
Thank
it
you,
over
Liz
to you.
Kamash, citizen here in the city of St. Albans, and I appreciate having the conversation. This is not an area of expertise for me, but I'm really interested in learning with data, and also very interested in learning about the impacts that it's having on community members. But having said that, what comes to mind this evening through this conversation is that as we talk about public safety, it is really important, as Melinda said, to find ways to improve the way we're sharing and connecting with different sectors with information. We've got the state government, we've got the nonprofit sector, we've got municipal governments, and we've got citizens in the community and the business community. What I'm concerned about is how do we broaden the connections so that we're taking a more systemic look. And one thing that, a suggestion is, for city to engage with the community partnership, which takes place monthly, where the service providers come together. I think our police occasionally participates in that, but that's a really good arena to be exchanging information. I'm a little bit taken aback by the sheer expectation that the nonprofits should always be reaching out. I don't disagree, that's good, but it's a two-way street. The city can reach out as well to have these conversations. The nonprofit sector, like the municipal sector, is stretched very thin capacity-wise. And how many vacancies does Howard Center have right now? I mean, we have a mental health crisis, and you're probably struggling with a 25%, I don't know what the number is, vacancy rate. We gotta all be in this together, we've gotta communicate, and I think the Public Safety Committee is really a great opportunity for us to look at public safety issues, including, but beyond, policing, including how we look at prevention, the great work that the city can do with recreation programs and things that help to foster positive behaviors. It's a big umbrella, so I just encourage you, and I'm happy to contribute thoughts about how we invite more conversation and communication in so that we can come together and not be siloed in the way we approach public safety.
Thank you, Liz. We're gonna move to Heather online. Heather, you will have the last comment.
Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, my name is Heather Sartwell. I've lived in St. Albans most of my life. I am a single mother, and I can tell from the past 2 years, the addiction and the needle use has increased dramatically in St. Albans. And as a supervisor for a grocery store, we are to the point now where we have to check almost everything within our store that could be used as a cleaning process to help clean used needles for people that are out there as well. And it's gotten to the point where I don't feel comfortable with my kids going into a public bathroom because I have to check the toilet paper rolls and make sure they have not been used to clean needles, or that a needle has not been left in a toilet paper roll. I can't go to playgrounds with my children because of the needles. And if I'm not paying attention to my daughter for 1 second, how do I know she's not gonna, behind my back, go grab some or find a needle on the ground and pick it up? It's gotten to the point where, as a child growing up in St. Albans, I used to love being around town, going around different places, and my kids can't experience that, and it's frustrating. It's to the point that when we start hearing the free syringes, that scares us as a community, at least a lot of us single parents, because to us, it feels like you're enabling the situation. You're saying, okay, this behavior is okay, we understand you're using, let's give you the tools you need to do it safely, which I feel like we need to stop this. We need to find ways, if they are using, what is their ways that we can prevent further use within our public areas. Our children should not have to walk down the street and see someone who just shot up in the parking lot and then going around damaging things because they're high as a kite. I also just want to point out, from working within a grocery store, we then told by camera crew that some of our people that come in and steal will lace their book bags and purses with used needles. So if you go to try to grab them from stealing something, you're going to get pricked. So it's getting to the point that they're using these free handouts as weapons as well. And that scares me. Like, I feel we as a community should be working up together on making it safe for our children to be able to be in the community. And I feel like lately that has not been happening.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Thank you very much.
Teresa, you want the last word?
This is such a difficult position to be in, quite honestly, because my heart is in this work so much, but I also hear, and I hear everybody also, because I can be of both minds. But my job, my actual job, I have a job, right? And that I'm tasked with doing as well. All I can say is that I do appreciate that you did reach out to us. When I received the email from Dominic, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like we would be so happy to come and talk about our program and also hear the concerns of the community, because it is actually really important to me. And I may not always say the things that everybody wants to hear, but I'm genuine and I'm honest and I come from a good place. And ultimately, all I want to do is help save lives. And we can't save them all. And the landscape has changed so much and it continuously changes, and our drug supply is poisoned. And so that is a whole different thing. But I'm also a member of this state in our communities as well. So I guess I just want to say thank you for having me and allowing me to have my voice. But I hope that you also know that I heard your voices as well tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Appreciate that. Thank you all for coming in. Now I'm guessing everyone is here to talk about the sign. Here, Liz. Yeah.
I just want to thank you. See who he was with us every week.
Good. Awesome. Thank you very much for that.
Have a good night.
Thank you all for coming in. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Your face does what my face does, and you
Oh
don't
my
even
God.
need it.
My facial
I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh, girl's got my problem with the face.
Chip, are you with us?
And every time that Kelly girl talked, I was like,
Yes, I'm with you.
All right. Item number 7 is on you. You have 10 seconds. No, I'm just
Yeah, is
kidding.
everyone ready to get serious?
Oh,
Go ahead.
As with, as we've done with many other, for businesses to, boost the quality of signage that you can see on our downtown streetscape, we've been in discussions with Tea Time Treats and golf simulators. It's a new shop on Kingman Street where the Frozen Ogre used to be. And they have some temporary signage up now. And it's also sort of a challenging space to provide signage because nearly the entire storefront is glass, painted glass. It looks like it's a wooden surface that you can mount signage to, but in fact it's not. So we are proposing a projecting sign designed by the firm that's been installing some really nice signage around downtown over the past couple of years that emphasizes the shop as a candy shop. That's the primary way, that's their primary need for attracting foot traffic. And as a projecting sign, it would be something noticeable by pedestrians. The golf simulator aspect of the shop is doing pretty well. They have a good outlook for the winter. That's more reservation based, and so I think it's all in all, I think having a candy shop sign on Kingman Street or anywhere in downtown is a pretty good look for us. It's a fun shop to have among our business downtown. We normally do a 50-50 grant. The quote for this sign is a total, with a contingency, is just over $3,900. So we're recommending a 50-50 match with city funding of $1,995. This would be on the low end of similar signage grants that we've done.
Does that include the $500 design fee that was already spent?
We I paid that out of my department budget just to keep the conversation going. I feel like right now with the business, just focusing on the actual sign and the installation.
Okay, thank you.
Chip, why two colors?
I'm trying, I suggested we go with the version that's the green, and I have agreement from the shop to go with that version. I think this adds a little bit more to the design. The graphic that we have had both options, but it's the green that we're shooting for.
And that sign, the sign will be double-sided, obviously.
Yep, double-sided projecting sign. It will also improve the projecting frame on the business, which has been there for a while and needs to be rebuilt.
Good.
And from a marketing perspective, I like the white more, but that's just my opinion.
Well,
Eric can vote. Eric can vote no on that when the time comes.
I like the green. We can't sleep.
All right, you've heard the information from Chip. Are there any other questions?
No.
No questions? Although, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to do the signage grant for Tea Time Treats.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Let the record show Eric is opposed to the
Aye. I said aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, Chip. Moving on.
Thank you.
I think we move to Sarah, who is.
Has moved to the microphone, so you can hear me. You don't have to tell me twice.
It's beyond Newell's bedtime.
It's beyond my bedtime. All right, the first item that I'd like to discuss is about parking in the garage in the courthouse parking lot. I have very exciting news. Park Mobile is coming to the city, and we will be doing away with the gate arms and the other equipment in the garages that has been causing us so many headaches over the last 8 or 9 years. Park Mobile is a pay upon entry system as opposed to a pay upon exit system for transient parkers. Transient parking is when you pull up for 15 minutes, a couple hours, maybe a couple days, as opposed to a pass holder. That causes a slight issue with our current system in the garage where the first 2 hours are free. If you don't have to pay to park, I need to be higher. I'm sorry, this is way too low for me. If you don't have to pay to park, then you have no incentive to log into Park Mobile, and we do not acquire your license plate data, which then goes into our license plate reader and goes ding, ding, if you haven't paid. And so I would like to propose a change to the parking rate structure in the garage that would require payment starting $1 an hour for the first hour, as opposed to the first 2 hours for free and then $1 an hour thereafter. To minimize the change to people parking on a short-term basis, I would like to propose that we charge that in 15-minute increments so someone could pull in, park for 15 minutes, drop their package off at the UPS store, and then head out without much of an impact. But we would still get our enforcement data. I would also like to propose that we take that $1 per hour, we have a daily rate of $8 for 10 hours, and then we have a 24-hour rate for folks who might be coming to town to park in the garage, hop on the Amtrak and go on vacation. They could pick a certain period of time, up to 30 days is what Marty and Dom and Lieutenant Kuchar and I have been talking about, without having to remember to come to City Hall and maybe get a temporary permit. We are looking to implement the structure also in the courthouse parking lot, which has the meters right now. The meters would be removed. It would be $1 an hour starting the first hour, $8 for a day, up to 10 hours, and no 24-hour option to move folks who want to park midterm over into the garage. I'm happy to answer any questions about this.
Will the dollar, do you estimate that would cover the cost of Park Mobile? Because I know Park Mobile has its fees as well.
Park Mobile fees are charged on top of our transaction fee per transaction, which is 40 cents for the first time you push pay now with my little Apple Pay. And then there's no fee to extend. And that's the only thing that Park Mobile charges. And so the city will not be paying Park Mobile anything.
But that will show up on my credit card as $1.40.
It will, yes. And if you use Park Mobile currently, they're in Burlington, Winooski, they're at UVM. I think they're in Montpelier. There are some other places in
Clearwater,
as well.
Cocoa Beach.
All the good places.
And does it say on the thing like there's a 40% like
as you're checking out, it says transaction fee 40 cents.
And that's every time you use it.
That is, yes, every time you could extend, if you're in the restaurant and the wait was longer than you thought and your phone says, hey, you have 5 more minutes on your parking, you can extend. There's no transaction fee at that point.
I'll just statement a question. I like the app. I've used it before. Burlington's great. I've sat down there. Dinner went over 2 hours I originally put in. It warns me. It just hit my phone and say 30 more minutes and it's done. I'm not getting charged what Burlington charges for fees. 2 pieces to the next part is like, have we discussed as a council or outside the council increasing our penalty to be kind of subsequential? Because we have people that are fine with like I get a ticket once a month at $10 or whatever the fee is now. I can't remember now. But I get like, once a month, or I get another once another $10. I don't care. It's like it's my parking. Where a lot of towns have gone to a model like the first time, yeah, it's a small little $5 fee. The next one's $50. The next one's $100, and now you're getting like, oh crap, I don't want to be doing this. Because there's a lot of business owners who complain about parking in the city that they themselves or their employees park up front. So it's like, well, listen. And that leads to my second part: is have we had any discussions around expanding this to just the entire downtown, or are we going to use these as a model to test it?
These are great questions, and internally we are very much open to increasing the fees to help to deter people from just trying to move around. Those fees are in an ordinance. The parking structure at the garage and the courthouse lot is dictated by council resolution, which is why we're able to do this a little bit more quickly, and we can make it happen. We're hoping to have this in place November 1st. We are open to revising that ordinance, and I think we are open to a discussion about moving this Park Mobile program onto Main Street as well. The Main Street timing is also in the ordinance. So at this point, where we have access to make a quick change and put this in place, is these lots, and it'll also be across the street and behind City Hall, but those are pass holders only. There's no transient parking there. So we are open to it, just a heavier lift.
How often will someone be going through to check the plates?
We have a full-time parking enforcement person now who is working full-time enforcing parking. We have seen a noticeable uptick in the number of parking tickets. So I believe that we have issued 900 this year to date. That's in the first 8 months. Wow. 300 of those have been since this person came on full-time in July. That's compared to 900 parking tickets for the entirety of 2023, right? Yeah, 2023 is the last calendar year. So that's where we're at.
But that's one person who works 40 hours a week covering 2 garages. Right?
Yeah, and the on-street parking.
Yeah.
And then those hours are not necessarily just during business hours.
This benefit is a drive-by with a cruiser will let a cruiser know that there's a delinquent payer in the garage, is that right?
The license plate reader for enforcement is on the parking enforcement car.
Okay.
I have to admit that I don't know all of the details on the enforcement side. There's one a license plate reader, and then there are 2 handhelds.
Okay, so, if I go to the parking garage, just so I'm clear, if I go to the parking garage for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I'm gonna pay 65 cents?
25 plus 40, yes. Yes,
Okay.
you would.
Okay.
I'm open to the discussion of.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
What are we doing about the electric vehicle chargers that sit there all day? And I get we're talking 2 different things, one for parking.
At the moment, they're gonna continue to sit there all day. Was there something wrong with them, or are they not functional?
But no, it doesn't open up the opportunity for other cars to use it. So if they go in and they charge in 2 hours, they sit there for 8, now you have other vehicles coming in that wanna charge and are not accessible because they sit there for 8 hours.
That's an excellent question and an issue I was not aware of. If they have paid for their 8 hours, then under this program, they would be able to park there for 8 hours. And if they're in, they're an electric car, they would. Certainly.
You know what they do in Burlington? They have certain spots, the 30-minute spots, and they have a different zone on them. And so what the zone does, it doesn't allow you to re-up like a normal spot. So once you hit your 30 minutes, it won't let you re-up in that zone for the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I think they do have a process in play.
They absolutely do, and I can add that to my list to speak with Mike. I've gotten stuck with that at UVM too.
Yeah.
So I would encourage that we try to rotate those spots, especially as more EV vehicles become more common.
So that zone number, if they pass by, if they were like, if they used a different zone, they'd get a ticket. And that zone, you say you can only be there for an hour, and you can't renew.
And I don't know how long, I don't know what type of charges there are in terms of what is an average charge period for a vehicle, so.
I will ask my new parking friends what they think is reasonable.
So what are you looking for from us on this?
I'm looking for the council to pass a motion that would approve the change to the parking rate structure of the garage and the courthouse lawn, please.
Changing the resolution.
Was that a motion?
Today.
Was that a motion?
Eric?
Oh, yeah, a motion that we update the pay rates for this garage and courthouse parking lots are recommended by city staff.
I second it.
Any further questions for Sarah? Any comments? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Now, I do just have to say, we should definitely have this as one of the items we do talk about in our social and stuff when it does happen, to let people know, hey, it's even easier to use our garage now, check it out.
Absolutely, we've already started the change management campaign, and I've met one-on-one or just talked one-on-one with every single one of our business entities who will be impacted by this.
And then we're moving on to item number 8B, short-term debt renewal.
You've got it, so the city has a short-term note for $500,000 for the purchase of 100 through 120 Federal Street, which is part of a TIF project. It's a brownfield cleanup. Our intention is to clean up the site and then sell it and pay off the note with the loan proceeds. There is currently an RFP out for that work. It has been slightly delayed, but we are hopeful that within the next 12 to 18 months it will be completed and we can pay this note off as well. The bank has maintained a 2% interest rate for the next 12 months, and I'm looking for council approval to renew this for the upcoming 12 months, please.
Can you clarify what lot that is?
That is the one with nothing on it, the nice little green.
Across the White Street, go down White Street.
Right,
Yeah.
or Center Street.
Yeah.
With the Dominic cloud.
Right. That was
It's
it.
called for questions about this.
Oh, okay, next to the gas station there.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone know where we're talking?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Motion to approve the short-term debt renewal.
Second.
Motion from Tim, seconded by Marie. Any further questions for Sarah? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Sarah, that's all you have for us?
It is, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, boy.
Thank you.
I'm a little hesitant to go through my mayor's list because I know Mr. Hawkins is timing me.
I don't have anything tonight.
Quickly, Chip, are you still on? Maybe you got off.
Yes, yep.
I see the parking is eliminated on Stebbins, or is it time parking, or is it all totally eliminated?
We were talking about eliminating the parking on the
South
southern side
Yep.
because we were having issues with, large vehicles not being able to pass each other on the street.
Okay, so, the signs are up, so that's moving forward, thank you for doing that. Marty's not here, trash, I think our trash ordinance.
Marty is patiently here.
Oh, Marty is here. Oh.
Oh, Marty, have I been muting you?
Yes, you.
Oh, I am so sorry.
We'll discuss that when I get back.
Marty, just, today, trash trucks were on the road, before 7.
What's that then?
Trash, Duffy's trash truck was on the road before 7 o'clock, isn't that our start time?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, just an FYI. Thank you for the crew for working on the encampment removal on Lemnod Drive. Jim Pelky we talked about, just passing around, there's a group of which I've been participating with, Leon Berthium, Valdemar Garibay, Arlie from the city, looking at getting some butt receptacles in the downtown area. We're looking at 4 different sites, 4 to 6 to begin with. I think we're actually, sorry, Eric, I think we're actually going with number 3. I was, for the record, I was number 2 as well.
I just don't like the kerning, otherwise I like the font.
I was number 2 as well, but we got overruled. So, I think, and then Grant Butterfield is more than glad to give us a tour come October. He's gone out of town, but when he comes back, we can have a tour of Lake Street. And I think that was everything I had in a nutshell. So let's move to Eric, you can go first.
I feel honored. Quick 3 ones. Marty, thanks for being on there. Get some feedback from Barlow Street people. Thank you for that fix to some low spot on Barlow and Upper Walden that was pooling before. It doesn't seem to be doing it anymore with the new top coat. Thank you. I did some math when Chief was up here, and just for edifice and knowledge, it's 8 calls a day this year as far as what he gave for numbers. That's a lot for a department to have to deal with every single day, in addition to all the other stuff that he didn't give us numbers for. So I just want to share that. Our ward has a wellness group that now meets, including our assistant director of rec who lives in the ward. So we're planning out a winter event for Ward 5. Sorry, Trudy.
Have at it.
So that's in the early phases, but I'm just sharing it here because if anybody's listening and still and wants to join, please email me or call me or message me. We'd love to have you.
Ward 4 is gonna come throw snowballs at you.
Go for it. Almost snowball fight. I don't know what the liabilities on that, but and then the other piece, I just wanted to reiterate, I asked the question when they were presenting about the number of people that go through to the program. I think programs like this are necessary, and the empathy that we don't understand is that we've never been through it, and I've had friends that went through programs like this and understand the need. I also understand where we're concerned that these needles are entering the community, not coming back, and that number scares the heck out of me. 300,000 is a lot. But I also understand that we've lost a lot of programs, I think, that are we're not talking about like DARE and some of the drug prevention programs that have come in school before these issues. And the last thing for that is I have a surgery coming up, and the thing that scared me is they gave me a sheet that they said, sign this saying that you're not going to sell the opiates to anybody. And I said, well, what if I don't want them? Well, no, just take them because they'll help you. Oh, no. I said, but what if I don't want them? And they said, well, no, you just take them anyways and turn them back in. And that's a problem for me. Like, that's still a problem. It's like pushing that hard for somebody to want to take the drugs. And I think all those components are helping that we need to work on prevention before we even get to the treatment part. But saying that, we still need the treatment part. We still need to help these people make sure that they're making good choices and giving them opportunities to get out of their situations. So that's what I just want to say.
My caveat to that would be that there's help there. Many choose not to take it at this
Agreed.
stage. That's where the
and I want to emphasize
that's where the catch is. That if they don't want to get the help, then where do we go from there?
Agreed.
Okay, Trudy.
The only thing I was curious about, Marty, maybe you can answer this, is there any plan to paint the fire station? It just looks really sad.
The fire station?
It looks.
It does. There are plans to, there were plans at one time to renovate that building. And I'm not, that would be a city manager question as to where that is.
Okay.
Can we get Charlie Sargent a step ladder so he can start, or?
And a hand scraper?
We have done it. The call force painted it about 3 years ago. Stained it and stuff. And that was just to try to limp us through till the renovations were done. So it may be something that we have to look at again.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Hawkins?
All quiet on the northern front.
I know I know I'll be ridiculed later, but Chad?
I don't have much either. Just the only thing that I've kind of noticed is I've noticed some people staying up late at night. I've been walking my dog, and they're watching their property. They're not all the soberest people in the world watching their property. So I think that what we're doing with the lieutenant there to kind of come up with, if you're going to do a city watch or a neighborhood watch, that should be kind of a little bit of professionalism. That's all I got.
I agree. Thank you. Marie?
Yeah, I have a few things.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm taking over that. I have seen a lot of uptick, and no surprise, that's what we've talked about all evening, but in impaired and intoxicated people walking the street, broad daylight, drugged out of their heads. I witnessed yesterday somebody that was definitely impaired, and an innocent person was walking the street, and she started calling her all kinds of names and everything else. The girl kept going and ignored her, but it's those kinds of things that bother me. I think bother a lot of people. I mean, I'm an older person, if I'm out walking the street, I don't wanna run into that. And, so I think there's a lot of people that are nervous about just being out for a nice casual walk and encountering that. I'm seeing a lot of that go by my house every day. So I'm glad that we're addressing it to a point, and I think it has gotten considerably worse this year. And so something's gotta be done about it. And I appreciate everything the police do. And in addition to that, I think the neighborhood watch groups is a fabulous idea. I do think that I'm hoping that Lieutenant Weatherby will have some good insight with people. We started a thread, and honestly, I think sometimes it gets a little carried away. So I think we need, a refresher course on how to better run it.
Well, I not only a refresher, but education. The
Yes.
comment that was on Facebook was, a guy walked right by the neighborhood watch sign to steal something, as if the whole intent was the sign was gonna stop people. He didn't understand the premise behind the program.
No.
So there's some education that has to
I
happen.
think we have to be educated. Also, there is some graffiti in the alleyway on Main Street between Eaton's and Twiggs. There's some graffiti on the wall. It's actually on the Eaton's building in the alleyway, covered alleyway. There's a lot of trash in there. And there was also a problem with the owner of an establishment that somebody broke his electrical box in the back to try and charge their telephone. And what else do I have here? I have quite a few things actually. In front of the shopping center by the Dollar Tree, it is filthy. That needs to be cleaned up. There's empty cans, drink cups, everything else.
Just
So
men's
we can-
underwear the other day.
Yeah.
Marty, can you make that call?
Yep, is this the Walgreens shopping center?
Yes, yeah.
Pomelo.
Dollar Tree, it's filthy between Dollar Tree and Walgreens.
Thanks, Marty.
Yep, so I can give them a call. Marie, I was just in for the board's application. Our crew spends probably 20 to 25 hours a week cleaning up dirty needles, garbage, shopping carts. The group that hands out these needles is enabling this group. They give them a needle to do illegal drugs, and in order to find those illegal drugs, they're breaking into property, totally disrespecting our property as a community. So our crew is pretty frustrated as well, and obviously anything we can do to curtail that, we would certainly support.
I know, thank you, Marty, and I know you guys do a fabulous job, and I agree. I think everybody's just so overwhelmed with what this world's come to be and all the extra labor it puts on everybody.
I'm not aware of anyone breaking in or trying to steal for a sleeve of Oreo cookies. But they have for drugs.
I might.
I
like Oreos.
Damn, second chance.
Let me see, I have one more.
Get Oreos out of here.
Well, I guess, also, is the, I don't happen to go in there too often, the parking garage, how's the lighting in the parking garage? I heard that it's kind of dark in there, I don't know.
We have replaced a number of those lights under warranty and are in the process of replacing more, but some of the lights are on motion sensors.
Okay.
So that's where the dimness is. When they go up to it, it comes on. We're eliminating those motion sensors and are gonna have the lights on all the time.
Oh, okay.
Are those at full luminance too? Are they actually, okay.
And I think that's all I got.
Thank you, Marie. Newell?
One comment.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Where am I going? No, not that, not the cemetery.
Okay.
I came to the Central Vermont Railway Historic Site in Rutland, and I got a compliment about the city, how nice it was, let it do it for free. When they had their get together here.
Oh, yeah,
on Saturday.
My ask of you is when you deal with your railroad friends,
Yeah,
I called Amtrak because of weeds that had grown up all around the building.
they went around, they cleaned
They
it.
went out and weed whacked it, but their attention to detail was weak.
Okay.
Trash was still around, there's still trash in the window wells.
Okay.
It could use more attention because
Okay.
that represents the city. So if you can encourage
Okay, I'll
them,
speak to, Steve Cash, I think he's the one.
yeah, Shane,
Yeah, Shane.
yeah, so, okay, anything else?
That's it.
All right, let's move on to approval of warrants, 831.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant for 831.
Okay,
She's quick.
I'm handing over the,
Is there a second on that?
Tim, one second.
I second.
Oh, you second, okay. Motion second on the warrant. Any questions, comments?
I'm tired.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposition, so the warrant is approved. Consider one set of meeting minutes from 8/12/24. Hold on, it's coming. I think
I'll
it's
make a
coming.
motion to approve the minutes.
Well, I had a correction.
8/12/24.
I had a correction, but
Second.
Well, we'll get to that.
yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections, amendments?
I couldn't remember. Jim Stiles wasn't here last time when we appointed him, or was he? Couldn't remember if they were
I
not.
thought he was here.
I thought he was here because up top it says in person, which is Josh.
I'm trying to think if Jim was here.
I don't remember. I thought there was other people other than you here last time. Maybe he was here. Okay. All right.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes pass.
Do it.
Thank you. Thank you all for your patience, good discussion.
Dang.
And,
Oh.
we haven't been this late in a while.
I guess not.
Oh.
Been about- Probably 2 years.